Well, good morning, everyone. Committee on Finance is hereby called to order. The time is 10:02 on Monday, March 22nd, 2021. Pursuant to applicable law, my determination that attendance by remote means is necessary because an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent due to the declared public health disaster caused by COVID-19. This meeting is conducted by video conference. For questions during the meeting, aldermen should use the raise your hand function to indicate that they have a question. Members of the committee shall be given preference, and I will watch for those on the phone. If you could just ask for a point of information or point of order, that would be helpful. For everyone else, if you wish to make that point of order, point of information, or point of clarification while one of your colleagues is speaking, please use the raise your hand function and unmute your microphone. We will now have a roll call to establish quorum. Please unmute your microphone when your name is called. Ladies and gentlemen, give me 1 second. I've got some other noise on this call. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can.
Chairman, with respect, this is Kamal. I think your microphone volume is too high. If you're able to adjust that.
Can you?
Your microphone
Kamal?
volume is too high.
Okay. Is that better?
No, it's still high.
About that?
I think a little better. You can go with this.
Okay, sorry. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have the roll call to establish quorum. And we'll start out with Alderman Brian Hopkins.
Alderman Hopkins present.
Alderman Dowell.
Here.
Alderman King.
Present.
Alderman Hairston.
Present.
Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell.
Present.
See you there. Alderman Harris.
Here.
Alderman Beal.
Yep.
Okay. Alderman Garza.
Here.
Alderman Thompson.
Here.
Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Quinn.
Here.
Alderman Burke.
Here.
Alderman Raymond Lopez.
Here from the dentist's office.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Curtis.
Present.
Alderman O'Shea.
Here.
Alderman Brookins. Alderman Tavares.
Here.
Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett.
Here.
Alderman Irvin. Alderman Talaferro.
Here.
Alderman Boris.
Present.
Chairman is present. Alderman Austin.
Here.
Alderman Villegas. Well, I saw your face on there. Alderman Mitz.
Yeah.
Alderman Sposato.
Nick Sposato's here.
Alderman Napolitano. Alderman Riley. Alderman Smith.
Alderman Smith is here.
Alderman Tunney.
Here.
Alderman Osterman.
Present.
Alderman Silverstein.
Present.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have 28 members present and we have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, Cardenas is present.
Okay.
Oh, thanks.
And Sawyer's present.
Okay. Alderman Moore.
Yes, Alderman Moore is present.
Okay, I thought I saw you on there. Give me 1 second.
We have Alderman Villegas present as well, sir.
Yes, I got him there. Okay, we still have a quorum. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start out with 5 public speakers today. Starting will be Mr. Will Smith. Mr. Smith?
Chairman, Mr. Will Smith is not here.
Okay, we will move on to Treylock O'Sullivan. Treylock?
Hi there. Are you, may I go ahead?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Treylock O'Sullivan, and I've been involved with the Logan Square Neighborhood Association's housing work for the last couple of years, and I'm really concerned about the lack of affordable housing in communities across Chicago, but especially the changes we've seen in Logan Square, Pilsen, and Humboldt Park. So gentrification has displaced thousands of long-term residents with deep ties to these neighborhoods, forcing them to start a new life just so a developer can make a profit. And the 606 is the latest example of something that's intensified this. As we all know, property values within a short radius in Logan Square and Humboldt have skyrocketed. So many people who have called this place home are leaving more and more by the day. We appreciate the city's enactment of a 5-year housing plan, establishing the importance of protecting the existing affordable housing, but we do need more than words on the page. We want to see real policy commitment that actually makes a difference in people's lives. So this is why we feel strongly about passing a demolition surcharge to mitigate the harmful effects of this aggressive development in our communities. Charging developers a fee to demolish buildings in the community will go a long way in protecting the 2 and 3 flat units that are some of the best sources of naturally occurring affordable housing, and as well, naturally occurring family-sized affordable housing in our city. We still do not feel that the current amount will be enough to repair the damage gentrification has done to these communities. Standing up for the long-term residents who are still in these areas is a step in the right direction. We need to do everything we can to allow them to stay in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. Next up is Juan Luna.
Hi there, everyone. My name's Juan Luna Nunez, the Outreach and Engagement Specialist at Latin United Community Housing Association, LUCHA. So we're members of the Logan Square Neighbor Association as well. I'd like to comment on the demolition surcharge that the Finance Committee is addressing today. To start off, the lack of affordable housing is a critical problem, which threatens the economic and quality of life in Chicago. The unmet demand for affordable housing units in the Logan Square, Pilsen, Humboldt Park neighborhoods is already among the highest. According to numerous studies, the opening of the Bloomingdale Trail, it has accelerated the increase in rents and property prices, the elimination of affordable housing, and the displacement of long-term legacy residents. Chicago's current 5-year housing plan does recognize that most of the city's affordable housing is natural occurring affordable housing, or NOAH. NOAH, particularly the 2 to 4 unit buildings, are threatened by deterioration, foreclosure, disinvestment, demolition, deconversions to single family homes, the list goes on. So protecting existing housing can actually cost much less per unit than building new one. It's necessary, desirable, and in the public interest to protect the existing affordable housing stock in the 606 residential area, as well as along the community of Pilsen, to minimize the displacement of these long-term residents and avoid the wholesale gentrification of the Bloomingdale Trail and the vibrancy of Pilsen. Policies such as minimum density requirements, affordable requirements, community land trust initiatives, and an equitable demolition surcharge can work in conjunction to mitigate the harmful and racialized impacts of predatory development. High school students launched a campaign in 2015 to curb the demolitions when research highlighted these as primary causes for displacement. And since then, we have marched, gathered 1,000 signatures, held numerous press conferences, testified at city council, and now we're actually finally seeing some movement at the policy level. We believe that racial healing is a matter of public policy. All people deserve a home, and we must come together to solve our most pressing issues through an actual explicit racial equity lens. Our city doesn't have a strategy in place to preserve truly income families as well. That's why this demolition surcharge is a step, right, and going into the right direction and moving forward, but it's only a start. We should continue this type of work and advocacy more so throughout all types of planning and processes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bevan Brennan.
Good morning, committee. My name is Bevan Brennan. I sent you all an email, but I'd just like to recap. The demolition surcharge is a tax. It is called a tax in the document tracking sheet. It is called a tax in the cover letter that Mayor Lightfoot sent to the committee proposing it. As a tax, it violates the Illinois Constitution as being a non-uniform tax. Calling it a surcharge does not change that fact. In the only community meeting held by Alderman LaSpada for the first ward on this issue, he expressly admitted that if this is a tax, it is not constitutional. Calling it a surcharge does not change that. A fee is something that is paid for services rendered or to be rendered. There is no service that would be rendered with respect to this tax. Therefore, I would ask that the committee exercise its fiduciary duty to the city and to its constituents in not passing unconstitutional legislation. With respect to the lack of community involvement, the only community meeting that was held by Alderman LaSpada occurred this past Thursday night. It was, with the exception of one speaker, it was overwhelmingly opposed. In the common thread in the comments was that the people who actually live in the 606 area that attended felt that this was a punishment being imposed upon them. Alderman LaSpada only stayed for a half of the meeting, but it was a consistent theme was that people felt punished, they felt unaware, and they felt uninvolved. The community meeting wasn't even posted on Alderman LaSpada's website. It was nowhere on social media, and it was only people who could figure it out either by word of mouth or some other way. So in sum, I just ask that the committee think about whether or not it has the authority to do this. I would argue that it does not, and not pass an unconstitutional tax. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brennan. Next up is Paul Colgan. Paul Colgan.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I am Paul Colgan, Government Affairs Director with the Home Builders Association of Greater Chicago. I'm here to testify on the demolition surcharge tax ordinance. As you just heard, the proposed ordinance poses some significant legal and constitutional issues. I'm here to address the policy impact. First of all, I want to say that the home builders share and support the city's goals of creating affordable housing. We just see a different, what we think is more effective path. Who do you think will end up paying this tax? In the end, the homeowners will likely pay for the tax through reduced prices for their homes, or they'll simply be unable to sell their homes for retirement or other purposes. Rather than double down on a bad policy, I urge you to reject this tax and instead focus on creating affordable housing with the help of the property owners in these two areas. Use incentives, not penalties. One example is a new additional dwelling unit or ADU ordinance. Why are so many people, including sponsors of this tax, so excited about ADUs? Because they know the ADU ordinance actually encourages people to invest their own private money, not tax dollars, into creating affordable housing at affordable prices. Thankfully, lots of people are lining up to do just that beginning May 1st. Do you think the ADU would happen if it were based on a tax or a penalty? No, of course not, which is why you should reject this tax and instead focus on incentives. On a broader citywide scale, how would you like to see a 551% increase in the number of deed-restricted affordable homes and a 350% increase for combined affordable and market rate homes? Those exact increases came in San Diego, California, when it adopted a policy to work with builders to achieve its affordable housing goals. This good bargain, as they called it, allowed builders to offset the cost of affordable units with additional market rate units. As a result, the builders eagerly joined the program, and 4 to 5 times more affordable homes and market homes were built, bringing new construction jobs and property tax revenues to the city. It was so successful, it became a model for the state of California. That's the kind of policy Chicago needs to choose. As we get ready to rewrite the ARO, I urge you to reject penalty ordinances like this one today, and instead invest in policies that are proven to deliver the results you want. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Colgan. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of the public speaking period. Before I go on, are there any members who came in late? Let me see. Alderman Napolitano.
Alderman Villegas is here. Alderman Villegas is here.
Riley Villegas.
Thank you.
Napolitano. Okay. Alderman Irvin, Scott, or Brookins? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the regular agenda. You should have in front of you the minutes per Rule 45 of the February Committee on Finance meeting. Does anyone have any changes or questions to this?
Move to pass, Chairman. Alderman
I have
Dowell.
a motion for approval using the roll call used to establish quorum from Alderman Dowell. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Thank you, Alderman Dowell. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please note that we're going to go out of order today on a couple of these items. We have a very lengthy agenda, but if you have input on these, please let me know. And we are going to first hear item number 4. Item number 4 is actually the 606 surcharge ordinance. So if you want to pull that up, we can start with that. Alderman Scott.
Chairman, I would like to be recorded as I was present today.
Present to establish quorum. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. For item number 4, I'm going to have the sponsors close on it, but this is a communication recommending the approval of a proposed amendment to Municipal Code Chapter 2-44 by adding a new subsection 2-44-135, imposing a building demolition surcharge tax pilot program until April 1st, 2022 in the Pilsen and the 606 Trail neighborhoods. We are joined by Daniel K. Hertz, the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Housing, to speak on this matter, excuse me, and we will have the sponsors close on this item. So let's start out with Mr. Daniel K. Hertz.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Chairman Wagesback, Vice Chair Hairston, members of the Council. My name is Daniel Hertz. I am Director of Policy with the Department of Housing. I am joined here today by representatives from the Department of Buildings and the Department of Law as well. And I am here to speak on behalf of the Department of Housing with respect to the 606 Pilsen demolition permit surcharge ordinance before the committee. This ordinance is the second of 2 measures designed to address displacement of low-income Chicagoans and Chicagoans of color in 2 rapidly gentrifying communities around the 606 Trail and in the Pilsen neighborhoods in the 1st, 25th, 26th, and 35th wards by focusing on the preservation of small-scale 2 to 6 unit buildings that make up so much of the city's unsubsidized low and moderate cost housing. The first measure, the anti-deconversion ordinance, which Council approved last month, created zoning protections for small-scale apartment buildings in areas where they are threatened due to rehabs that turn them into single-family homes. The second measure, which is before you today, works in tandem with the anti-deconversion ordinances to protect the existing unsubsidized affordable housing that so many Chicagoans call home. It does so by placing a surcharge on demolition permits in these areas. In buildings of up to 3 units, the surcharge will be $15,000. In buildings of 4 units or more, it will be $5,000 per unit. These figures are identical to the demolition surcharge that already exists in the city of Evanston, just to our north. These funds will in turn be used to support the Chicago Community Land Trust and its activities in these areas to support the creation of long-term affordable owner-occupied housing. The demolition permit surcharge ordinance takes effect for 1 year, during which DOH will monitor how this measure is affecting housing in these 2 neighborhoods and more closely study the connection between demolitions and displacement in these particular communities. Several months before it is set to expire, the ordinance requires DOH to come to Council to present preliminary findings and make recommendations as to how to proceed. The challenge of displacement demands a balanced and innovative response. We're proud to have worked with Alderman Rosa, LaSpada, Maldonado, and Sigcho Lopez, and local stakeholders to do just that. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, are there any questions from any members of the council? Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Daniel, how you doing? I have a question for you. So these demolition fees or penalties or whatever you want to refer to them as, it's only for demolition in Pilsen and on the 606 trail?
That's
As
right.
far as deconversions are concerned?
That's right. The geographies that these that the demolition permit surcharge would apply to are the same as the anti-deconversion ordinances that were passed last month. So yes, they apply to the western portion around the 606 trail, as well as to the bulk of the Pilsen neighborhood.
So there's a boundary when you say the bulk. I mean, is there specific lines? And secondly, is this legal that we could specify certain areas to be penalized or extra fees or whatever? I mean, I know you got law, you said laws with you, so I'm not an attorney, but I can't believe that this is legal, so.
So on the first question, I can bring up, if it would be helpful, slides showing the exact boundaries. While I'm doing that, I would defer to law to go into the details, but yes, we worked over the course of many months with the law department to ensure that what we were putting forward was legally defensible and would withstand legal scrutiny. So I believe we have a representative from the law department here who may be able to give more color to that.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, Alderman Sposato, I think we have Mr. McDonald to speak to that, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, Jim, what say you?
Unfortunately, I'm not the appropriate lawyer for this ordinance. I will see if my colleagues.
Wes Hanscom is on the line, I believe, sir, and I think is probably able to speak to this.
Good morning. I've worked with Lisa Mischer.
Mr. Hanscom, if you could introduce yourself and your title, please.
I'm sorry. It's Wes Hanscom. I am deputy of the Revenue Litigation Division in the Law Department. We have taken a look at this issue. Obviously, there are policy issues here, but as far as the legal issues go, it's our opinion that this would be lawful. There's a state statute that authorizes municipalities to tax demolition contractors. And as far as the uniformity clause goes, the basic requirement is that there be a reasonable justification for the lines that are drawn. It's our understanding that the problem being addressed here is definitely a problem in this particular area. And there are cases that also on the uniformity clause say that the fact that legislation does not address every cause of a problem does not mean that it's a violation of the uniformity clause. So we've looked at that, and we believe this would be lawful. We believe it's, basically a policy call as to whether to do it.
So my question to you is, you believe or you're 100% certain? So I know I'm just a little perplexed by this, and full disclaimer, this is not my community. So if somebody demolishes a deconverts in my community, they're not going to pay a $5,000 fee or fine or whatever you want to refer to it as. But in Pilsen or 606 Trail, they will. And you say, as an experienced attorney, I guess, that this is legal.
Yes. People can bring challenges.
Of
they
course.
likely will. And the uniformity clause is one where at the end, there is a judge who decides whether the judge thinks it meets those requirements. It can be a somewhat subjective call. So I don't want to say I'm 100% sure what would happen, but I in my judgment, after many years of doing this and handling a lot of cases involving this issue, I believe it is lawful.
Okay, well, I appreciate your insight and your information. Once again, I'm not an attorney, but I really find this weird, and hopefully some of the attorneys in the council weigh in on this and say what how they feel about it. But thanks for the information, Daniel and Weston, and thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. I too, I was going to ask that we have somebody from the law department opine or give us their thoughts on this. On this issue, it sounds like from Wes's perspective that this that the law department at least feels like this would withstand. Of course, you can't stop somebody from filing a lawsuit. I just that's concerned. We talk over and over about litigation, and I know a lot of it has to do with our settling cases with the police department, but we don't want to be inflicting unnecessary litigation here. And so I'm glad to hear that Wes has looked at it and is opined that this is, in his opinion, and in the law department's opinion. So with that, I have no further questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Dowell.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. To Daniel. Daniel, can you give you mentioned in a 3 flat, I think that it would be $15,000 in addition, and as an additional surcharge per unit to demolish that home. Can you tell me, or the building department tell me, what a 3 flat costs in terms of fees to be demolished now without this?
So thank you, Alderman. I'll make one clarification and then defer to colleagues from the Department of Buildings to speak to the rest of your question. So for 3 flats, the total demolition surcharge in this ordinance would be $15,000, not $15,000 per unit. So the total building would be $15,000. And with that, for the rest of the fees that attach to building demolition permits, I'll defer to my colleagues at DOB.
Thank you. I think we have Grant Ulrich from the Department of Buildings.
Yeah. Good morning, Chairman. Grant Ulrich, Managing Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Buildings. I'm happy to answer that. So the building department charges a permit fee, which is usually $500. It varies based on area, but most 3 flats would fall in that. But there's a range of other departmental fees that apply to a demolition, and we tried to add them up. And I would say that they're in the range of about $3,000 to $4,000 right now. So most of those are city department fees. So there's a fee to the water department, both in connection with discontinuing water service and sewers. And then there's fees to CDOT for street related closures and things like that. So they vary a little bit, but they'd be in the range of $3,000 to $4,000 for a typical 3 flat demolition today.
Okay, thank you. And that's just another 15,000 applied to an upper range of 4,000, let's just say, right? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have a very quick question. I don't know if I misunderstood how this is reading. Are we saying that anybody in a certain area or any building owner in a certain area does not have the right to either demolish and rebuild their building or to develop on a location that they own? Is that correct? Am I hearing that correctly?
Good morning, Alderman. Thank you. No, we are not. The ordinance does not say that somebody does not have the right to do so. It simply attaches a surcharge to demolitions in certain areas of the city. As Deputy Commissioner Ulrich mentioned, there's already other types of fees that apply to demolition permits. So this is in the same vein of them, although obviously it does increase the amount. And that's part of the sort of spectrum of regulations that the city attaches to development and demolition activity, including zoning and other regulations.
Okay, so it's bringing it up to, and I'm sorry, that amount was, the fee on that is up to $5,000. Did I hear that correctly?
The demolition permit surcharge or the other
Yes.
fee?
The surcharge.
So the surcharge is $15,000 for 1 to 3 unit buildings and $5,000 per unit for 4 unit buildings and above.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Reset there? Okay. Next, I'm going to call on Alderman Osterman.
Just thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Daniel, we don't know how many times this will be used over the course of the 1-year pilot, or what the revenue may come in, but how would that money be used? If you could just reiterate how that would be used. So if it's $150,000 or $300,000 in these deconversions, how is the city going to use that funds?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the reason for directing these funds to the Chicago Community Land Trust is that the amount of the demolition fees translates well into the amount of fees or the amount of funding that the CCLT needs to create affordable units. So for example, an opt-in grant for existing homeowners who choose to join voluntarily the Chicago Community Land Trust involves a $30,000 home improvement grant. So 2 demolition permits would pay for that. For acquisitions, so when the CCLT goes out and buys a single family home or a 2-flat to create long-term affordable owner-occupied housing, the leave-in subsidy, I believe, is often up to $75,000. So 4 to 5 demolition fees could pay for an additional unit there. And the CCLT also has the unique ability to balance long-term affordability with community stability and wealth building. So owners through the CCLT do get to build some equity, build some wealth through their home, and that's another really important piece of the racial equity lens and the anti-displacement lens that DOH and the administration is taking here.
Got it. I just want to lend my support to this. I think both in the areas where this is going to be implemented for a 1-year pilot, they've seen rapid gentrification, which has displaced longtime homeowners. I think if we keep apartment buildings there, I think that's a good thing for the folks who've lived there for many, many years. Keep it affordable. Also, though, if people do buy and do these renovations and contribute to the Community Land Trust, that's money that's going to create affordable units around the city of Chicago. So I think on both fronts, I support this and ask the committee to support it for a 1-year pilot. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Osterman. I like your subtle Loyola
Go Ramblers
support there. That probably won't go over too well with the Illinois members, but hey, that's fine. Alderman Spizzato.
Thank you again, Chairman. I also agree with Alderman Hosen. As far as the Ramblers are concerned, go Ramblers. So, all right, I'm still stuck on this. So let me ask a question. I guess, Daniel, I'll start with you, and maybe it's a call for Wes. John Smith bought a building over there, okay? I'm just going to use John Smith as a generic name, okay? That's my generic name. He bought it 30 years ago. Now he wants to, now he knows he was there in the tough times because that was some rough neighborhoods. Things weren't the greatest there. Now he's got a chance to cash out and hit it big. Now, John Smith, even though he's been there for 30 years, he's going to have to spend $15,000, $10,000, $5,000 to demolish his building. Is that what we're saying? And of course, we think it's legal.
Thank you, Alderman. So the legal side, again, I'll defer to our colleagues from the law department. But as far as the policy question, I think, you raise a good point, which is that we are trying to balance in these neighborhoods and in other neighborhoods across the city, balance affordability and making sure that people have the ability to stay in these neighborhoods with community wealth building, and the fact that, particularly for lower income, working class, Black and Brown Chicagoans, being able to build wealth through their homes is something that has not always been the case in Chicago and other parts of the country, and we want to encourage that. So I think what this ordinance is trying to do is strike that balance of, this is not a prohibition on demolitions. I think it's important that, this is coming, in fact, on the heels of a temporary moratorium that's lasted for a year in around the 606. The moratorium would be lifted with the effect of this ordinance. It simply is striking that balance of allowing people to do with their property, what they would like, but also making sure that there is a consideration for affordability.
Well, I understand it's not a moratorium, but it's the penalty basically. So, because this is not a citywide thing, this is a specific to a zip code or a boundary or whatever. And this is where I have my problem here. And it's certainly, especially if John Smith has lived there for a long time and stuck it out through the tough times. And now guess what? All he invested, all he did, this is it. Now he's got a chance to cash out and hit the jackpot. Now we're going to say, I don't know about this, or we're going to penalty. We're going to penalize you. You don't call it a penalty, but I call it a penalty. I mean, especially if we're just talking certain areas. The citywide thing, then I guess we could say it's not a penalty, but you're going to say a certain boundary. To me, that's a penalty. So Wes, what say you?
Wes Hanscom from the Law Department. I think it still comes back to the basic standards that get applied. And I think it's basically a policy issue. This will add cost if someone decides to demolish their building. I don't know what the prices are for what somebody gets for property there, or the overall costs to then rebuild. In comparison with them, I would think that the 5,000 to 15,000 is a relatively small part next to what the rest is going to involve.
It's still a penalty, Wes. It's still a penalty.
Well, any tax it can be viewed as discouraging whatever the activity is that the tax applies to. But again, I mean, I think what you're getting into is more policy issues, and I'm not saying those are not legitimate issues, but I think from a legal standpoint, this is not something that a court would find unlawful because of the effect.
Okay, well, we always talk about we get sued too much. You heard it here first. We will be sued over this, everybody, okay? The guy with the high school diploma says we're going to be sued over this. So, all right, I appreciate your insight and your input, you and Daniel. I'm really having a problem with this though. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Chairman, if I could make one additional point on that. I think it is also important to look at some of these numbers, and I think as we were crafting this and we looked at what is the dollar amount that we're going to make the surcharge. Obviously a big part of it was looking at Evanston and the fact that there already exists a demolition surcharge exactly of this magnitude. But another one is considering, just what the Alderman was speaking to in terms of people who may have bought or invested in their homes, 20, 30 years ago, are seeing some appreciation, some wealth building right now. But I think to Wes's point, the appreciation in homes in the 606 area and in Pilsen really dwarfs the $15,000 surcharge amount. So, the Institute for Housing Studies at DePaul found that in the 606 area, in 2012, prices for 1 to 4 unit buildings were actually 30% below the citywide average. And just a few years later, in 2018, they were close to double the citywide average. So there really has been, I think part of the targeting here is there really has been remarkable increase in property values, and the $15,000. As we've said, we think will make a difference in all the ways that we've spoken about, but it certainly will not, eliminate the wealth building opportunities that longtime homeowners or property owners will have in those areas.
Thanks, Dan. Alderman Sposato, are you set there with that?
Yeah, I may
Okay.
jump in again. I don't know, but yeah, thank you.
All right.
So,
Okay. Alderman Lopez, Raymond Lopez, are you there?
Yes, Chairman. Good morning. Live from the dentist, sorry. Appreciate your indulgence. I just want to speak briefly that I am not in support of this ordinance. I appreciate my colleagues' efforts, but I think that we are stealing the equity people have invested in these neighborhoods and would like to be recorded as voting no on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Lopez. I'll record you as a no vote on that one. Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. My question is, has any analysis been done on the cost-effective real estate? Will this, in turn, from a matrix standpoint, increase real estate prices simply because they're going to tack this fee onto the pricing, even though they may get demolished anyway? And will this have a big impact in communities like mine if they wanted to demolish a building that is badly damaged? This is a tax on them that they would not have to pay otherwise. If someone can answer that.
Thank you, Alderman. So, our anticipation is that this will not be raising prices. It may get absorbed into, land costs or other sort of pieces of the economics of development. But that's also why we have structured this as a 1-year pilot and why we are going to be studying it over that period and reporting back to council, because we know that the same policy can have different effects in different areas and different communities. Every community is unique, so we want to study exactly how this rolls out in these particular areas before we create any sort of permanent policy. So that point is well taken.
I appreciate that. Now, we're doing this because obviously there's a lot of gentrification. There's a lot of buildings that are being demolished to create one single family units. I think that's sort of the intent is, right? So obviously parts of the city like Humboldt Park and Worker Park and I think that what are the communities that I think are being affected by this? I can't think of others except those that are probably in hot demand right now. But this policy will affect the entire city. This policy will affect South and West Side neighborhoods and Southwest neighborhoods, where things could change, where multifamilies could decide after the pandemic to make different lifestyle changes in how they live in their own communities. Maybe it will make families sort of stick together, and maybe the unit that they have or the building that they have it's not suitable the way it stands right now. So they may want to make changes. In fact, they may want to demolish it and create another building that fits the family a little bit better. You're putting a tax on them, which in fact, that's not the intent, but that's what you're going to do with this. The pandemic has changed on a lot of ways, our economy, but also our family ties. And we don't know what is going to happen. But what I do know is that families are planning to stick together more, that the current accommodations are not sufficient for them, that they're living on top of each other. And so I don't know what is going to happen 6 months from now. But what I do know is that this policy will add another cost to folks. They may want to live together, or they may want to create living accommodations for their entire family. This is what this is going to be, a tax on them after being hit hard, after a pandemic, after they've gone through harrowing experience of potentially losing part of the family, losing their home, losing where they used to live. And so it's making them think about how they live after, how they come together better and create a better society. This is a tax on them, even though you're trying to impact a couple of neighborhoods that are in hot demand, because we want to view that as, a way to stop gentrification. And I don't think this stops gentrification, because they will pay that money without hesitation. The folks that are not going to be able to pay that money are folks like on my end. You're going to make it harder for them to really create a new future for themselves and their families if they're deciding to be congregating more or to living together, but they just need bigger accommodations. That's what you're saying here with this new policy. And I don't think my colleagues really understand that, but that's the guy that has the money. That's not a problem. This is they'll gladly pay this tax without question. If you're building $1 million mansion, $10,000 ain't gonna make no difference. But those folks that have, a single family, that it's okay, but it could be better. The economy right now, the way it stands, I think is a great opportunity for them to maybe tear that little hamlet down and build a couple of stories, maybe a 3-story for the entire family. But you just decide to put a tax on that, and maybe their dreams will be deferred because the whole thing just is maybe too much for them. Maybe it scares them. And I don't know. I like us to debate this a little bit more, because you're trying to kill a flea with a hammer, and I just don't necessarily agree at this point unless someone explains to me a little deeper in terms of what this policy is intended to do.
Thanks, Alderman. Before I go to Alderman Dowell, I had a hand up for Ms. Ploman from the Department of Law. Did you want to speak on that or hand it off to Grant Ulrich?
I just wanted to address Alderman Cardenas's second point about, a dangerous building coming down.
Could you just introduce yourself first and your title for us for the record? Thanks. Go ahead.
I'm Kalpana Ploman from the Department of Law. And I wanted to address Alderman Cardenas's second point about a dangerous building coming down. I wanted to point out that there are 2 exceptions in the ordinance. And the second exception is that to the extent a demolition of a building is required due to, a dangerous condition, that demolition is exempt from the fee. And that's in section subsection E2 of the ordinance.
And what's the other one?
The first exception is to the extent the replacement building contains at least half of those dwelling units are affordable housing that are restricted to households earning less than 60% of the area median income, that then there's no demolition fee due there as well. So that's the first exception. And the second is a demolition due to a dangerous condition.
Alderman Dow, thank you, Ms. Kapana, or Ploman, sorry. Alderman Dowell.
Yeah, just one more
Go
question,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Can we get a sense of how many demolitions have occurred in these 2 communities in 2020, 2019, if they have that information?
I think Mr. Hertz might have that. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Well, for 2019, 2020.
And to date.
I think Daniel has that.
Thank you. I can look for that information. I don't know if my colleague, Grant Ulrich, has that on hand, but I can certainly get that.
I do not have that immediately in front of me. We did share that with the Department of Housing. I can say in the 606 area, there has been a moratorium since I believe February of 2020. So there have been no demolitions issued in the 606 portion.
So when is that moratorium lifted?
It will expire concurrent with this, if this goes into effect, which is April 1st, I believe is the current extension of that moratorium.
So if there's a moratorium, why are we doing this ordinance for that area?
So Alderman, the moratorium was always intended to be a temporary measure to give the administration and council time to put together longer term measures that would address the concern that the community has and the department has around the loss of naturally occurring affordable housing. So this, combined with the anti-deconversion ordinances that council approved last month, represents that that sort of response that's meant to replace the demolition moratorium. So the moratorium was initially passed for 6 months. It was extended for another 6, and this would allow it to expire.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Osterman, I know you had your hand up there for a second.
I think it's not, I'll stick by what I said earlier. I think some of my colleagues have brought up other arguments, but I think it's important at some point to hear from the sponsors, to hear kind of what the on the ground situations are going on in their community. And I think, you know, they have deeply impacted neighborhoods where people that are living in lowest moderate income homes or households have suffered from this, and I think are fearful of displacement. So that's I think like to hear, the colleagues of ours would like to hear from the sponsors. So at some point, that's all.
Thank you, Alderman. Mr. Hertz, did you have? I saw your hand was up there.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I did just want to make
Sorry.
one additional clarification, which is in some of the comments, it may have been applied or implied that this ordinance applies to the whole city or to large swaths of the city. Again, I just want to underscore it applies to portions of the communities around the 606, as well as Pilsen in the 1st, 25th, 26th, and 35th wards. It is a pilot, and we are intending to study the effect in those areas before recommending any changes to those geographies or to any other aspects of the measure. So just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Alderman Siccho Lopez and then Alderman Burnett.
Thank you. And I just would like to comment. I think Alderman Osterman was right, and I hope that maybe the other sponsors and Alderman Maldonado and others are not here. But I think it's very clear that on the ground, in communities like Pilsen, around the 606, people are feeling the effects of big development that has gone unregulated for a long time. We also have to see the effects that has had on the small homeowner. In Pilsen alone, in the last report by the Treasurer's Office, we've seen the increase in property taxes fivefold. It's way above the cost of living or the quote unquote normal growth rates that we may have in a community. And I think that what we want in our communities is stability. I think that we do not do justice in our communities if we continue to allow the speculation, land swaps, and so far to be the norm in our communities. The effects are very telling in Logan Square, in Pilsen. We're talking about displacement of unprecedented numbers. In Pilsen alone, during the same time frame, over 14,000 residents were displaced from Pilsen. We have gone a long way to discuss, and I think some other of my colleagues talk about this, not impositions, but legally binding, legal options and venues to create incentives and disincentives for the preservation of communities like Pilsen, like Humboldt Park, Logan Square, and so forth. I do urge my colleagues to see that there has been a lot of conversation in our communities. We have socialized this idea of demolition fees. If anything, I don't think that the demolition fees go far enough. I think that maybe there's more conversation, that needs to happen to really create these incentives. But I tell you that this is a lawful tool that was used in Evanston. We have done a lot of work to see ordinances across the country that can help us alleviate the issue that we have right now. Make no mistake, this is not going to hurt the small homeowner. This is going to help us regulate some of the free-for-all type of development that we have seen in our communities. We have seen, of course, the disinformation that is created by those who want to continue to operate without any kind of regulation and not abiding by the lawful options that we have. So again, I think that we do have a deconversion ordinance that, again, is not an imposition. We are just adding, and to my colleagues, you all know that when someone comes from a special use or a zoning change, we go through a community process so the community has a voice. In terms of the demolition fees, I don't see a lot of small homeowners who are in our community upset about this. In fact, what they're asking is for help so that we can have more stability, less speculation in our communities, and ultimately tools that help us create the balanced, diverse communities that we want to see. This ordinance goes in line, and again, is a step in the right direction, not the silver bullet, but this doomsday narrative that developers, the same developers who fight against affordable housing, they fight against the conversion ordinance and so far. And all we're asking here is to make sure that we are consistent, especially with a community or a neighbor like Evanston. Bring us more consistency, bring more best practices to our city. I think it will be a step in the right direction. I think communities like Pilsen, communities along the 606 have been hurt drastically by the displacement and the lack of regulation in the real estate market that has damaged communities like Pilsen, and the social fabric that we all want to preserve is going to be preserved with this kind of regulation and this kind of legislation. So I hope my colleagues, are sensitive to this. Is something that we're putting into communities where we have seen the effects of demolitions, the effects of displacement, and the lack of regulation. This is fair regulation, is lawful, and this is the step in the right direction to protect the social fabric of communities like Pilsen, who have great amenities. We have tourists, we have people who want to see our social fabric. Let's make sure that we do justice and protect the people of our communities. And I think this will go a long way. Thank you again, Chairman, and thank you to my colleagues.
Alderman Burnett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Funny, I used to actually live on a Bloomingdale Trail on California and Bloomingdale. It was actually the first property that I owned in my early 20s. And I'm just trying to picture, okay, so I own this building. It won't really affect me. It will affect who I sold the building to, and if they wanted to tear the building down, right?
Let me, Commissioner Hertz had his hand up anyway. I think you might be able to expound on that again. Thanks.
Yes, that's correct, Alderman.
So it won't affect the homeowner in the community. It just will affect the guy who's going to buy the property, who wants to tear it down so he can make a lot of money off the property, or make money off the property on whatever he builds. And so how much more would the demolition cost?
It would be $15,000 for 1, 2, 3 unit buildings, and $5,000 per unit for buildings of 4 units or more.
So $15,000 for a single family home, 2 unit and a 3 unit.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So thinking of how, I wish I owned that property today, but thinking about how the property value have escalated in that community, I don't think that's going to be a big deal for those guys with the cost benefits of, depending on what they buy the property for. But They should be, they making a lot of money over there on the Bloomingdale Trail. But okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman. I'm going to go to Alderman Cardenas, Spozzato, and then Alderman Laspada to wrap up with Alderman Rosa. Alderman Cardenas.
Thanks, Chair. Again, I saw the clarification on the fact that this is near the 606, and of course, those neighbors are highly impacted by that. I have no opposition to that. I think once the pilot is over, that we can see that can be extended citywide and maybe make it better. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman Spozzato.
Thank you once again, Chairman. Sorry to be unlike myself and dominating a meeting, but Daniel, I don't think you answered Alderman Burnett's question. So I didn't hear an answer. So once again, he asked the question that I kind of asked earlier. If John Smith owned the building forever, and he wants to do something, is he going to be penalized? I'm going to call it a penalty. So Walter said it's going to apply to the guy he sells it to, but if he does something, he's got to pay. So whoever does something has to pay. Is that correct?
Alderman, that's correct. Any demolition permits would fall
All
under
right.
this.
So John Smith, who owned the building for 30 years, went through the rough times over there, hit the jackpot, the American dream, the capitalistic world that we live in. He's going to be penalized, and we are going to have a lawsuit. And I don't consider this as going against my colleagues. I'm going against the system. I see this as a lawsuit in the waiting to happen. So therefore, Chairman, I'm going to ask to be recorded as a no also. But thank you, Daniel, very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to go to Alderman Laspada. Yeah, Alderman Laspada, go ahead to wrap up, please.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Chairman. My thanks off the bat to Deputy Commissioner Hertz for his thoughtful commentary, for the PPD, to Law, to the Mayor's administration. This really is the process of 2 years worth of meetings, both with our departmental colleagues and also with the community. At least numerous meetings during my time in office, many meetings going back the 3 years that neighborhood leaders and advocates and even my predecessor were working to pass a demolition impact fee ordinance similar to what we're looking at today. And I just want to thank those who persevered so hard in this work in the face of displacement and demolition in their communities. Just going to take my time to speak to a handful of the concerns that were raised here today. So it was spoken of that someone mentioned, one of our commenters, supporting the goal of producing affordable housing, which is great. I'm for a strong ARO. I know we're working towards a strong ARO. We will never be able to, just through the ARO or our existing subsidy tools, stem what is being lost. Even in the first ward, which over the past several years created more affordable ARO units than almost anyone, lost more units than that based off of what was being demolished just within the 606 impact area. So even with our best efforts to increase units, we are losing the war on gentrification and segregation if we don't find a way.
No, segregation.
Could someone please mute their microphone? I would appreciate that tremendously.
Alderman Lopez. Okay. Alderman, you're still, there you go.
I appreciate it.
Alderman
The second
Laspada, go ahead.
Yes. So second point, and Mr. Colgan brought this up, is the benefit of ADUs, which is, again, a new fantastic tool for increasing density and housing supply in our communities. Ironically, though, I need to point out, when we demolish useful housing in our community, we take the potential of an ADU off the table for that property. Based off of our writing, a property needs to be 20 years old or older to be eligible for ADUs. We're losing that ADU potential if we don't find, again, a way to rationally curb the rate of demolitions in our area. somebody has brought up the goal of intergenerational housing, which again, we have a lot of intergenerational properties in the ward. I love it when I see families living together. Those tend to be in our ward at least 2 and 3 flats. So like there is a goal here, if we are going to have intergenerational homes, to find a way to preserve that kind of housing stock. Fourth, and then I'll close on just 2 short things on incentives. Absolutely right, we need incentives, but you need to be able to fund incentives. And so that's why the dollars being produced here by ordinance go back into incentives for our communities to help preserve and rehab housing, to help keep it affordable in the long term. And to that end, to my colleague Alderman Sposato, your John Smith story is on point, because I met with a neighbor about this just on Friday. Someone 2-flat that's been in his family for the last 30 years, had his frustrations when he was first hearing about the concept of this. And I was like, well, let's talk this through. 2-flat where he keeps the rent at a 2-bedroom at $750 a month. Outstanding. I couldn't ask more. That is an incredibly affordable rent. But the rehabs are starting to pile up, the repairs that need to be done. And I said to this particular John, I was like, this is nothing but good news for you, because our goal is to turn around these demolition impact fees to benefit folks like yourself, to help you make those repairs, to help you with property tax relief. That is what the Chicago Community Land Trust is designed to do. So this is really going to be a benefit to a lot of the John Smiths out there. Would not do it otherwise, sir. But I have to close in saying, like, this is hard work. Is it a new cost on demolitions? Financially, it is. But I would argue that our communities have been paying these costs for years through the loss of affordability, through the environmental impact of needless demolitions. We pay the cost right now. This is just making those who are contributing that cost to our city, to our community, actually responsible for it. And I know this is a lift, but I really believe if we are going to act effectively against segregation and against gentrification in our communities, this is an essential tool. And so I'm glad for those who can support. I really do urge passage of this ordinance today. Thank you.
Alderman Ramirez Rosa. Glad you're joining us. Ready?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman Wagenbach, and thank you, members of the committee, for your time this morning. It was in 2016 that the 606 Bloomingdale Trail opened in Logan Square. And just a few months later, the DePaul Institute for Housing Studies issued a report that looked at the displacement and rising property values in the area that were driving longtime residents out. In response to this displacement that was being driven by this beautiful amenity, what occurred was that Logan Square Neighborhood Association began to organize local residents. And in 2017, Logan Square Neighborhood Association joined with Alderman Moreno, Alderman Maldonado, and myself to put forward a demolition impact fee ordinance. That ordinance at that time called for a $300,000 fee for every single family home that would be demolished in the area, a $450,000 fee for a 2-flat, and for each additional unit, it continued to rise by $150,000. So a $15,000 demolition surcharge tax, $5,000 per unit, is a major compromise. But it's an important step forward, despite it being much less than what our community asked for many years ago. It's an important step forward because it recognizes that when we demolish these buildings, there's a cost that is incurred by our community. There's air pollution. There's the fact that demolition contributes to climate change, but there's also the fact that's been very well documented now that this is a major source of displacement in our communities. From 2012 to 2019, Chicago's population in 2 to 4 flats dropped from 883,000 people to 800,000 people. 81,000 people that used to live in 2 flats and 4 flats no longer lived in 2 flats and 4 flats. From 2009 to 2019, the city of Chicago lost 40,000 units in 2 to 4 flats. 40,000 units. That means that our affordable housing issue that we face, the housing crisis we face in the city of Chicago, was exacerbated by the fact that we lost units that already existed to demolition and to deconversion. And in the community that I represent, Logan Square, Avondale, and Morsa, in that same 10-year period, we lost 1,500 units. Imagine the cost to our city to be able to replace those 1,500 units in my community, which were providing affordable housing to the residents. 1,500 units, that's a lot of money that we as a city would have to spend to be able to replace those units that were demolished or deconverted. So we have to understand that this is part of a broader solution. We passed the anti-deconversion ordinance to make sure that in these areas around the 606 and in Pilsen, we were promoting and legalizing the ability to build new 2 flats and make it easier for people to do that. But we also have to recognize that if they choose to demolish a building, there's still a cost that's incurred to the community. But there's important exceptions in this ordinance as well. If half of the building is affordable to people that make 60% of the area median income or below, then you don't have to pay this tax. If the demolition is necessary for safety and that building has to come down and it's dangerous if the building doesn't come down, then you don't have to worry about this tax either. But we have to understand that at the end of the day, it's not going to be longtime residents who are going to be paying this tax. It's going to be developers who are making a lot of money. In one egregious example that I looked at in Logan Square, there was a 2-flat that in 2016 sold for $279,000. Perfectly fine 2-flat, just needed a little TLC, had served the community well for 100 years. With a little upkeep and care, it would have served the community for another 100 more years. That building was torn down and a new luxury condo building was built, and each one of those condos sold for $800,000. So we want to talk about affordability. If that building had been purchased, that 2-flat had been purchased for $279,000 by someone who wanted to take care of it and live there, it still would have been standing today and it still would have been a source of affordability in our community. But instead it was demolished, it was torn down, and each new unit in that building sold for $800,000. So why are we allowing developers to tear down buildings in communities like Logan Square when Chicago has such a big need for infill development? There are so many empty parcels on the west and the south side where we need developers to build. And so it just makes no sense for us to continue to reward and promote developers tearing down buildings in communities that are seeing so much displacement when we have such a need for development all across the city of Chicago. So this tax, which again is a major compromise, recognizes the impact that these demolitions has. It recognizes that we lose affordability every time we demolish these 2 and 4 flats. And it also recognizes that there's an environmental impact. Again, demolition contributes to air pollution and to climate change. So I want to thank all of the colleagues that I've already had an opportunity to speak to who have stated that they will be voting in support of this today. This is something that our communities have been working for such a long time. And I'm also so grateful to Mayor Lightfoot. I'm grateful to the Department of Housing, to Commissioner Navarro, to the Policy Director, Daniel K. Hertz. I'm grateful to the folks at the Law Department who have looked at this and who have worked diligently on this to make sure that this would withstand legal scrutiny. And most of all, I'm thankful to the residents who rose up, raised their voices, organized, and marched. Let's pass this for them today. And let's pass this so that we as a city of Chicago can take reasonable steps to ensure that we have integrated and diverse communities. Because Chicago has been one of the most segregated cities in the entire world for far too long. And by taking this step, we'll be implementing a policy that will allow people to stay in their homes and that will promote the integration and diversity that we need. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman. That was our closing speaker there. So we will, sorry, Alderman Riley.
Oh, no, Chairman, if no one else was going to call for it, I was just going to request we go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you. We're going to have a roll call vote on this item. This is item number 4 on the Pilsen and 606 Trail neighborhood. Amendment to Municipal Code Chapter 2-44, adding subsection 2-44-135 for a demolition surcharge tax pilot program. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on item number 4, and I'll start the roll call vote.
you have a motion, Mr. Chairman? This.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, Alderman Riley.
I think it was Alderman Riley.
Okay, that's fine.
Making a motion for a roll call vote. Thank you. And please make sure your mics are unmuted for your call. I'll start out with Alderman Brian Hopkins.
Oh.
Alderman Dowell. Alderman King. Alderman Hairston.
Aye.
Alderman Sawyer.
Yeah.
Alderman Sawyer, was that an aye? All right, let me move to Alderman.
That was an
Mitchell.
aye, I'm sorry. That was an aye.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris. Alderman Beal.
No.
Alderman Sadlowski Garza.
Aye.
Alderman Thompson.
Aye.
Alderman Cardenas.
Aye. By the way, I wanted to say I'm supporting a very progressive action here.
Alderman Quinn.
Thanks,
Aye.
George.
Alderman Burke.
No.
Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Lopez votes no.
Okay. Alderman David Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Curtis.
Aye.
Alderman O'Shea.
No.
Alderman Brookins is out. Alderman Tabaris. Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett.
Aye.
Alderman Irvin is out. Alderman Taliaferro.
Aye.
Alderman Boris.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Alderman Austin.
Aye.
Alderman Villegas.
Aye.
Alderman Mitz.
Alderman Dowell is a no.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Mitz, I'm sorry, I missed you there.
Aye.
Thank you. Alderman Spizzato.
Next Posato's a no.
Thank you. Alderman Napolitano.
No.
Alderman Riley.
No.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
Alderman Tunney.
No.
Alderman Osterman.
Aye.
Alderman Silverstein.
Alderman Harris is an aye.
Thank you.
Alderman Tavares is a no.
Alderman Scott's an aye.
Alderman King's an aye.
Alderman Silverstein. Did I miss you there? Okay. I have 20 ayes and 11 nays. And according to my count there, the item passes by roll call vote. Let's see. On that item, for a motion to reconsider, Alderman, actually, no, that passes, sorry, my bad. Just double check there. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that item number 4 passes by that roll call vote of 20 to 11. And we'll now move on to item number 6. Give me 1 second because we have 18 items here. Alderman Cardenas, you're unmuted there. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to all matters from the Department of Planning and Development. We have 18 intergovernmental agreements between the city and the Chicago Park District. If it pleases the committee, what I'd like to do is have Parks and DPD talk through and answer questions on each of these projects. The sponsoring alderman or the alderman whose project and the ward that it's located in would also be able to close on each item. They will talk through them all at once here or one by one. If anybody would like a separate vote, please advise, and I'm happy to hold a separate vote on each one of these. Is there any objection to doing that?
No objection, just a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Hopkins, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, since we are going out of order on the agenda, can you just tell us when you're going to call the municipal deposit ordinance? At what point in the meeting?
It will be, yes, let me, we're going to go through the parks. That's items 6 through 22. We will go back to item number 2, and then after that, we'll be going to the municipal depository.
Okay, and then unless otherwise requested, it'll just be one vote on all the park matters?
That's correct. I think we've had, and I'm sorry, essentially the muni deposit would be last. We're going to try to hold that conversation for last, but you're right. Unless there's an objection to voting on all these at once, I think we can bundle them together here.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. So with us today, we have Beth O'Reilly from the Chicago Park District, and we'll have Tim Jeffries from the Department of Planning and Development. It's my understanding that Parks and DPD have spoken to every alderman whose ward these projects are in. So hopefully we have that support ironed out and there aren't any questions there. But I will hand it off, I think, to Beth O'Reilly first. And we're going to start out with an item in the 36th ward.
Hello, Alderman.
Beth, are you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here. Beth O'Reilly with the Park District. Tiffany is also on. She's going to be the driver on the slides.
Okay, thank you.
Multitasking. I can't do all that. So we'll start when she loads up.
And-
Hermosa is first. I am Beth O'Reilly. I'm Deputy Budget Director with the Park District. And as you mentioned, Tim Jeffries is on the line as well. I'm here to request your approval on an intergovernmental agreement that would provide the Park District with up to $650,000.
Beth, could you give me 1 second? I'm just having a hard time queuing up the presentation. All right. Can everyone see that?
We're on your directory.
Yep.
Chairman, while we give Ms. Sanders Sostrin a moment, would you mind just reading the title of item 6 for the record?
Yeah, before each one, Beth, I'll read it out. But number 6 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds of $650,000 for certain improvements and renovations to Hermosa Park located at 2240 North Kilbourne Avenue. And it looks like Tiffany has that up. So
Yes.
go ahead, Beth.
Okay, Tiffany, can you move one?
Yes.
Okay, so Hermosa Park, as the chairman just stated, is at 2240 North Kilbourne in the Hermosa community area and the 36th ward within the Northwest Industrial TIF District. You can see the aerial view of the property. To orient yourself, it's Lindell Avenue to the south, Kilbourne to the east, Belden to the north, and the rail line parallel to Kenton to the west. Our proposal is to, for Hermosa Park, is to improve the site with pathway paving, installation of benches and picnic table, lighting upgrades to the ball field. it should be noted that the Chicago Cubs Diamond Grant Program has awarded $230,000 to this park to improve these ball fields, but with that budget, they could not swing the improvement to the field lighting, so the TIF would go for that. Tiffany, can you go? Okay, so that's what some of the pathway and driveways look like. The picture to the right is the light pole, and you can see the ponding on the diamond. That will all be addressed with the Cubs money, but we needed extra for the lighting. The bulk of the money, that's about $150,000 there. The bulk of the money will go for a full roof replacement and interior finish restoration from the leaking roof. So it's a pretty basic project, $650,000.
Okay, Alderman Villegas, do you have any comments? Okay. Beth, we will now move on to item number 7. This is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements and construction at Durso Park located at 421 West Locust Street in the amount of $250,000 in the 27th Ward.
Okay, in this whole presentation today, we have 10 playgrounds, so you will see the same information at 10 different locations. The first one up is Durso, and it is in the 27th Ward out of the near north TIF, and we are requesting $250,000. Most of the scope on these projects is a rehab or improvement of the surfacing and fencing and site improvements at the playgrounds. So you can see slide 5 has examples of some of the existing conditions where we have tears in the soft surfacing or equipment that's been vandalized or has just outlived its useful life. So we are planning on improving these playgrounds throughout the city.
Thank you, Beth. Chairman Burnett, on Durso, did you have any comments?
No, I'm fine with it. The community is fine with it. We did have a community meeting to make the community aware of it. Just want to make sure with the Park District that we consider some opportunities for the community to be involved.
Sure.
With the building part of it. Thank you.
Construction wise, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Can't really comment on that. We can look into it.
We can discuss that offline.
Right. Yeah.
Community that are certified with the Park District to build minority contractors.
Okay, we can take that. We can give you a buzz on that.
Thanks, Alderman Burnett. Item number 8 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements and construction at Clark Park located at 4615 West Jackson Boulevard in the amount of $500,000.
Okay. Okay, Clark Park is on the west side. It's located at 4615 West Jackson in the 28th Ward. It has a pool in it. If you can scroll down, that is sort of a strange pool for our system. It's low. It's like a wading pool almost, but the community loves it. It needs a whole lot of love. We need to change out the whole filter and water system. We have major leaks out here. So we will be basically restructuring the whole pool, improving the fencing and the site access to get into the pool. And this one, we're asking for $500,000 to do the scope.
Thank you, Beth. Alderman Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is another one of the parks that I actually had the pleasure of managing when I was over at the Park District. Like Beth said, this is a really highly used wading pool. It's about maybe 3 feet deep. You have a bunch of children that are over there. It actually sits right next to a senior building that happens to be in my ward. It is right on the border of my ward. And so I know that a lot of folks in and around that community love and use that park very highly subscribed. And the work is very necessary. It's been in disrepair for, I would say, the last 15 years. And so I think this will help modernize that building and bring them up to bring it up to the year 2020. I mean, 2022, 2021, that's where we are now, sorry. But I think it is desperately needed, and I urge my colleagues for a favorable vote on this.
Thank you, Alderman Scott. Coming out of the time warp, Beth, do you have any other comments on that?
No, it just, we really need some help with this project. The Alderman is 100% supportive of it. We were looking to maybe change out this feature into an interactive water feature. And hearing from the community, that was a definite no.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Scott, for commenting on that as well. All right. Item number 9 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements and construction at Fosco Park in the amount of $1.5 million. And this park is located at 1313 South Troop Street in the 25th Ward.
Right. Okay. So Fosco Park is in the 25th Ward in the Roosevelt Racine TIF District. We are seeking $1.5 million to do really heavy duty facility structural improvement on this building. We need the funding to, Tiffany, if you can scroll forward, to replace the metal roof. It has several roofs. We've had masonry that is becoming unjoined, which then results with major water infiltration through the doorways and the windows and the roof. So this is no frills, just let's make this building secure, dry, and tight. So we've already begun some of the work. The Park District has put in money to get the critical path work done, and this would supplement the work that's already been done and take this to phase 2.
Okay, thanks. Alderman Sigcho Lopez, did you have a comment?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Just again, we did have a deferred maintenance in Fosco Park, which serves residents in the Abla Homes community. So, this is long overdue, and I want to thank the Park District for adding this project and this improvement to our Fosco Park. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Beth. Item number 10.
Okay, gross.
Let me read it in
Sorry,
first,
sorry.
please. It's
Yep.
okay. This is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements in construction at Gross Park, located at 2708 West Lawrence Avenue in the amount of $175,000. Go ahead, Beth.
Okay, again, Gross is one of our playgrounds that we are seeking $175,000 for improvements at this location based on what we discovered in existing conditions of the play equipment and the soft surface out there. These are typical. So,
Okay, Alderman Vasquez, did you have a comment on it? Actually, let me see if he's on there.
I don't believe he's with us today.
No. Okay. All right, Beth. Moving on to item number 11. Hold on 1 second. Item number 11 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements and construction at Ridge Park, located at 1817 West 96th Street, amount of $1 million, and this is in the 19th Ward.
right? Ridge Park is one of our, the city's cultural centers, and a portion of this $1 million request will go towards renovating the existing stage and backstage area, as well as supplementing a state grant to improve accessibility improvements throughout the facility. And including, we are installing an elevator to get up to the second level, which houses the auditorium and stage area. So if we scroll through the pictures here, this is where our young artists perform, you can see here, we have, the plan is to try to come up with a system to access the stage for people with all abilities and disabilities. We're looking to improve the stage lighting where we can, but usually that involves electrical upgrades. Our buildings are old. The services aren't there to run the amps that we need. So a lot of the funding for this project is going in electrical and accessibility improvements at this site. And a few of the remaining windows that we didn't get through with Park District funding and the state grant.
Thank you. Alderman O'Shea, did you have any comments? Okay, no comments. We'll move on to item 12. Ladies and gentlemen, item number 12 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements and construction at Roosevelt Park, located at 62 West Roosevelt Road. This is in the amount of $400,000 in the 4th Ward.
Okay, this project, as we just heard, is in the 4th Ward. It's tucked, you would drive past this every day and never see it because it's where Clark Park starts to go up on the incline right at Roosevelt. It's a well-used park. It was originally donated to the Park District as part of the South Loop Dearborn Park housing development. It's a 2.26 acre park, has tennis courts, walking paths. We are requesting $400,000 in TIP assistance to make site improvements here. The site improvements will include resurfacing of the tennis courts and playground, as well as improvements to the outdoor fitness station and walking path. You can scroll through and see the playground is kind of sad, and the path needs some repaving. So,
okay, Alderman King. Alderman King, would you like to comment on it, or you're good? Okay. All right. We will move on to item 13. Item 13 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements and construction at Wentworth Gardens Park, located at 3770 South Wentworth Avenue, in the amount of $250,000, and it's located in the 3rd Ward.
right, so again, another one of our playgrounds. This one would be more of an equipment purchase. This one is a super small playground right now. It's a small site, and so the equipment needs to be smaller, but we will work with the community on this one. I believe it's almost a full replacement, but again, there's so many in here. So this, I don't have the original picture for it, but this playground needs some help. So that's why this price is a little bit higher than the others.
Thank you. Alderman Dow, did you have a comment?
Very quickly, this may be super small, but it is a very needed and useful playground for a lot of the children that live in Wentworth Gardens. Very happy to see the Park District make this investment and ask for the committee's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, Beth, let's move on to item 14.
Okay.
This is a communication This is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements and construction at Big Marsh Park, located at 555 South Stony Island Avenue, in the amount of $1.5 million, located in the 10th Ward.
Okay, again, Big Marsh is down in the far southeast side. It is one of our most unique properties. If you've not gone, you should definitely take a trip down there. We are seeking $1.5 million to make the next level of improvements. Where's Tiffany? Into Big Marsh.
I'm having some technical difficulties. My computer does not like having 10 PowerPoints open at one time.
Yeah, mine crashed in between the two.
Yeah, just take a second and we'll give you a second to close them out. No worries.
So yeah, so Big Marsh is literally a marsh. It was used to be industrial, and through the years, I think way back when, the city bought the property and then they transferred it to the Park District for an open land experience. It's pretty cool. So we do have an OSLAD grant for this project, and so these TIF funds will be used to match that and add additional improvements that we didn't get funded through the OSLAD program.
Okay. Alderman Sadlowski Garza, did you want to comment on it? Yeah. Actually, let me have Alderman Osterman. He's got a question first, if you don't mind holding for a second.
Just look forward to Beth setting up tours of these places. Question, it's more as a broader question for all of these, and that is, the state passed a capital bill. Are we getting state dollars to go to any of these? Or can the Park District kind of put together a list of where the state capital projects went for the Park District? Don't need it today, but.
Sure, we have that available. We can show you what has been reviewed for the Park District, which is different from what has been awarded to the Park District. So there's.
If you could get that through the chair, I would
Sure.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Sadlowski Garza, did you want to comment on that one, please?
Just really quickly, I just want to reiterate what Beth said. This is a really unique property. If you haven't been there, you should really go. Bring your kids, bring your bikes. There's over 300 miles of bike trail. It's a really cool property, and I'm just asking for everyone to support this. That's it.
Thank you. Beth, did you have anything else on that one?
No, just the pictures are really cool, but we can skip them.
They are really good pictures. I'm so sorry, guys. I'll see if I can get it.
Okay. Tiffany, are you ready for item 15?
Well, 15, 16, actually the next several are all playgrounds. So we're gonna go back to that same slide.
Okay, then
Chairman, we can always, we can circulate any PowerPoints that we're not able to show now if.
Right, we'll do that.
Information, we're happy to do that.
Okay. All right, let me read into the record item number 15 then. Item number 15 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements at Bronco Billy Park, located at 4437 North Magnolia Avenue, in the amount of $175,000 in the 46th Ward.
Sorry, we're working on the computers. My phone is dinging like crazy. Yeah, so Bronco Billy is a playground improvement that we are seeking $175,000 for. Actually, in the pictures, one of those is Bronco Billy. I think it's the light blue one. Again, it would be for soft surface replacement and playground equipment rehab or replacement.
Thank you. Alderman Kappelman, did you have a comment? Actually, he's not available here. Okay. Thank you, Beth. Item number 16 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements at Chase Park, located at 4701 North Ashland, in the amount of $125,000, and this is in the 47th Ward.
Right.
Tiffany?
Hey.
Tiffany, do you have that one up?
Tiffany, you're not muted.
Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, sorry. So Chase, it's the playground improvement. We also have another TIF funded improvement going on, but at the time we scoped the facility work, we didn't pick up playground, and then we were doing the playground survey. So anyway, you might think that Chase comes up a lot. It really doesn't. It's only 2. But this is for, again, a refresh of a very heavily used playground coming out of the, oh, I don't have my sheet. Is it Western Avenue North? So, sorry, I don't have the TIF stuff up in front of me right now. I can pull up my slide that Tiffany had. Playground. Yeah, our systems are really slow here today. My system is crawling. Tiffany can't open anything. She just sent me a message. Yeah, 125 out of the Clark Montrose TIF, sorry, for Chase.
Okay. The 125 is from Clark Montrose. You have, all right. Tiffany, go ahead. Did you?
Tim Jeffries has the presentations and is going to share them in 1 second.
Okay. Let's pause for a second. Tim, whenever you're ready to get those up.
Yeah, just grab them.
While we're waiting for Tim to pull that up, Alderman Osterman, if you have a question, go ahead.
Tiffany, that park just went through and got an AstroTurf field, and I'm curious, is that open to the public or is that via rental through the park?
I'm sorry, Alderman, can you repeat that question?
So the park that we're talking about on Clark, just north of Lawrence, Chase Park, just got a huge renovation of AstroTurf field. I think it's important that it's open to the public for families to be used, for sports and things like that. I was just curious, that's something that is open all the time, or is it something that people rent it? It's more just from a family perspective, trying to make sure that it's accessible and it's not rented out 24/7 to private entities. I was more of a question, what's going on with that?
Yeah, they can also access the schedule of that particular park online and can send you the link so they can see it. But generally, if the space is not rented out to someone, it's available to the community.
Okay,
but I'll share the schedule so that they can see it and see the times that it's available.
Thanks.
Would Tech please mind making Tim Jeffries a co-host so that he may share?
He's co-host now.
Oh, we got you on there. Okay, great.
Go ahead, Tim. We're on item number 16, if you just want to show that. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so this slide can actually stay on for quite a few until we get to the last one.
Okay, Beth. Can we move to item 17 then? For Frank Wilson? Are you ready?
I'm ready, sure. Sorry.
Okay. This item number 17 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements at Frank J. Wilson Park located at 4630 North Milwaukee Avenue in the amount of $345,000 in the 45th Ward.
Okay, this one is actually a water park that we have to demolish. It's a playground that's got like a slippy slidey type thing, but it's not to our standards anymore. It's we'll just say it's not to our standards. We were going to decommission it in any event. We are going to then replace it with more something like an interactive water feature we're thinking about. But again, this will all go out to the PAC and to the community, to the ward, to the aldermen and all that before it's determined what this park will look like in the end. But right now we are taking down a dysfunctional water feature and replacing it with another water feature. So in the pictures, which if we scroll through and look for like typical playgrounds, the one with the water rings, Tim, if you could go two slides down, I think. Yeah, something to that one on the right. That is more the standard of a water feature where we're at grade. We don't have the risk of anybody climbing a wet ladder, and it's a lot of fun for the little kids.
All right, thank you, Beth. I don't see Alderman Gardner on the call, so we will move on to item number 18. Item number 18 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements at Winnemac Park, located at 5001 North Levitt Street, in the amount of $200,000 in the 40th Ward.
Okay. Winnemac is, it's a big playground. It actually is pictured in the photos below. We are replacing the surfacing. It is an obsolete soft surface. It was one of the first ones we put out as the tile system, and it's just not working. So this would be primarily a soft surface full replacement at that park. You scroll through, it's the park. The playground is decent, but it's this one on the right. See that lip? The tiles are separating. It's becoming unsafe. So we're going to pull that all up and put a different surface in there.
Alderman Michael Scott.
Thanks, Chair. So I know that there were quite a few of these like tile systems that put out for these soft surface play. But about how many more of these throughout the park do you have? And I know you might not know that off the top of your head, but just want to know how many you might have to come back for, because I know these are obsolete.
To be honest, I'll have to get back to you. But what we did when we were looking at the next wave of playgrounds after Chicago Plays, and where we put in the fast track money that we got from the state to do improvements everywhere, we really hit where we could on TIF. So coming back to TIF, I would say probably very few. That's why you have so many at one time, because we pushed our program forward. But I can get the number of how many remain outside of the TIF geography.
If you could do that, and then also how many of the play lots still have like that wood chip surface? I know that it is way less expensive to do the wood chips as it is to do a pour and play soft surface. Just kind of wondering like how many in your inventory you still have that are that have the wood chip for the bottom for safety.
Okay, I can get both of those for you. Remaining bad soft surfaces and wood chips.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thanks, Alderman. And Beth, we'll provide that through the chair, but if you have more detailed information by ward, I think that would be helpful so that Alderman can start planning ahead if they do have that tile type surface that needs to eventually be replaced.
Okay.
If we could try to break it down at some point, I think that would be helpful.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. And let's see, Alderman Vasquez there. So let us move on to item 19.
Okay, if we can just keep this slide up. Oops, go to the picture one, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, you have to.
Yep, just give me 1 second, sorry. Item 19 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements at Washington Park, located at 5531 South Martin Luther King Drive, in the amount of $300,000 in the 20th Ward.
Okay, so the picture on the top right is Washington Park. We have a huge need to replace this playground. It's got another funding source too. It also has a state grant coming into this. So we are going to combine and do site work and playground replacement here. It's sorely needed. This one, for reasons with planned other developments, was not done when we did the major first run of Chicago Plays. It was noted as being a candidate for replacement at that time, but so we're picking it up now.
Okay, I don't see Alderman Taylor on. I'm sure they would like the improvements though, so we will move on to item
Is
number.
that the 20th or the 4th ward?
I have it listed as the 20th ward, but is that
I
correct
think
that it's the 4th
Washington-
ward?
Yeah, Washington Park spans quite a few wards, and I have this down as, actually scroll back up.
That particular.
Alderman King, would you like to
is the
comment
Yeah.
where the TIF is? But Alderman King, if you want to comment on it, go ahead.
Yeah, can they clarify where this sits?
Alderman King, I think the specific portion of Washington Park itself, this is Tiffany Sastrom from Park District. This particular portion of Washington Park is in the 4th ward, but large portions of Washington Park in general are in the 20th ward.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I recognize a park. So certainly I'd like to speak on this since it's in the 4th ward. But, as folks have said, we share this with not only the 20th ward, the 3rd ward residents. And so I know that all of those aldermen are probably also happy that much needed resources are coming to this particular park, since their residents will also enjoy the fruits and the benefits of that. So appreciate that. But like I said, I did recognize the park as being in the 4th ward and just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, Beth, that was item number 19. We'll move on to item number 20. Item number 20 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements at Amundsen Park, located at 6200 North Bloomingdale Avenue. This is in the amount of $110,000 in the 29th ward.
Okay, yep, this again is one of our playgrounds. If we can scroll up, it looks like Amundsen is a smaller improvement, Ward 29, out of the Galewood Armitage TIF for $110,000.
Okay, before we go on, Alderman Raboris, is this your ward or is it 29?
No, I believe that's 29, but I think I think the address is listed at North Bloomingdale. I think it's West Bloomingdale.
West.
Yeah, Scott, I'm sorry, this is Alderman Calafay. I apologize here.
That's okay, jump in.
It's Amundsen Park in the 29th ward, and this is a wonderful park, and we've been improving this park. Not only the field house itself, but the outdoor playground, and we've been able to, under former Alderman Graham, put a very nice multi-purpose field there. So I hope that my colleagues will look favorably upon this TIF request.
Thank you, Alderman.
Can the Parks District quickly clarify whether it's North or West Bloomingdale? Because per the
Bloomingdale is
it's
west. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
6200 West.
Okay, once. Let's see. We'll make sure that's clarified in the record. I think I
The
had
report
it.
out will have it corrected.
Yeah, we'll correct it in the
Thank you all.
report out.
Apologies.
Made a note of that. All right. Beth, we're moving on to item number 21. Item 21 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for certain improvements at Brighton Park, located at 3542 South Richmond Street. This is in the amount of $125,000 in the 12th Ward.
Right, again, this is another playground, modest improvement, soft surfacing, replacement, repair, and equipment replacement, repair where needed. Out of the Stevenson Brighton for $125,000.
Thank you. Alderman Cardenas, did you have a comment? Okay. Let's move on to item number 22. This is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the use of tax increment financing funds for major design and construction at Reese Park, located at 6100 West Fullerton Avenue, in the amount of $10 million in the 30th Ward. And I imagine all the member boards will want to speak to this one.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The Reese Park location will be part of a new school project that will serve the communities bounded by the 30th Ward and the 36th Ward respectively. This project has been in discussion for over 5 years, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the Northwest Side Housing Organization, LISC, Department of Planning, the Public Building Commission, Friends of the Park, Executive Director Michael Kelly and the Chicago Park District, CPS, and the parent mentors of the Belmont Cragen community. It's a long time waiting on this. A lot of money is going to be put into this building, and it needs it, but it's going to be used for the community and also the school. So, Mr. Chairman, I ask for your support on the matter before you.
Thank you. And this was in the Plan Commission, right, that we had the lengthy discussion?
That is correct.
Very detailed. Looked like a fantastic project overall, so congratulations to you.
Thank
I know you put based on the conversations in the Plan Commission, I know you, we went on for quite a while there, but very good discussion. Beth, could you read into the record any comments that you have on it, please?
Or if we could scroll to the next one. We are requesting $10 million in TIP assistance to make improvements into Reese Park, both the facility and site improvements. We are looking, Reese Park is 57.3 acres and features a field house that is 22,680 square feet. So it is a large building. When the school is going to be attached to the Park District, they are taking on certain improvements to the facility, but as the Alderman just stated, this building is very old and the budget for the school will not address all of the needs that we need at the facility to marry the two together. We will be putting in another accessible elevator. We will be doing site work, improving bathrooms and hallways for accessibility into different levels that have never been accessible in this building before. The school budget, like I said, will be linking these buildings, but the Park District is going to need money for the building envelope, the roof, HVAC, and interior remodeling and accessibility improvements. Additionally, the site improvements to be completed with the TIF funds will be a new playground and landscape restoration as needed through the park. The water feature will be replaced as part of this overall project, not necessarily with these TIF dollars. We can scroll through and see some of the pictures of existing. So there, it's a beautiful building, but it has issues with today's standards. So scroll through again. Some of the less attractive features of the building will be addressed here when we finish our work. As you can see, the school is going in a corner there. Our building is on an offset angle, and then the school is going, and then we will be linking that way. Any questions?
Okay, Alderman Sposato, 1 second, please. I see Alderman Brookins has joined the meeting. Alderman Brookins, are you there?
I am. Sorry.
Okay. Would you like to be recorded as present for purposes of quorum?
I would, and I don't know if you went through the matter with.
Not yet. We're 2 more items and then you'll be up. But I think we lost your connection there, so we'll probably need you to get closer to Wi-Fi.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Alderman Urban, there you are.
How you doing? I too would like to be recorded as present for the purposes of work.
Gotcha. You were next there. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Let me go to Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Chairman. No real questions, just some comments. First of all, we always know it's good news when Beth and Tiffany are around because it's always positive things for the park. So appreciate both of you. I want to congratulate Alderman Raboris. That was always been a great park. It's a park that when I grew up was fairly close to my neighborhood. It wasn't my main park, but we played ball there. We did a lot of things there. We hung around with those guys. But I just have a comment to all my colleagues, whether you're getting improvements or not. In my first 2 years on the job, I rebuilt 2 new playgrounds. Unfortunately, I had to use menu money for it, but it was money well spent. So anybody that's having any improvement at your parks, that is just awesome. In my opinion, parks and schools are just major anchors to your community. So congratulations, everybody. And I just want to let everybody know this is money very well spent. So congratulations all, especially Alderman Boris. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Sposato. Alderman Talaferro.
Thank you, Chairman. And I too want to congratulate Alderman Reborius on this particular project. This park I'm very familiar with, and I've done there numerous times, and it's a wonderful park. I just had a question regarding the TIF that's being used to help fund some of the improvements of the park. Is this part of the Gilwood Armitage TIF that you're using? And if so, what's the balance of that TIF? I think this is some information we were trying to find out before when we discussed it. But I don't know for sure whether I ever got the information.
I think Tim Jeffries is online, Alderman Talaferro, and he might be able to answer that for you.
Yes, let me, I'm pulling up the information right now. Just give me 1 sec.
Are several TIFs being, is the funding coming just from one TIF, or is another TIF being used as well?
It's coming from 3 different TIFs, including the home TIF, which is unable to support the project by itself. And then there's some funds coming from Gilwood Armitage, and then some funds coming from Belmont Central. Specifically from Gilwood Armitage, there is 4.35 million. And the current available balance in that district right now is 3.2 million at its low water mark.
Okay, you say the balance. I don't get that you're saying the balance is 3 million, but you're using 4 million.
That balance is net of funds used for this project.
Okay.
So the currently available balance for other projects right now is
okay.
3 point.
Can we speak offline?
Sure.
Sometime during the day or either tomorrow.
Sure. I'll send you an email.
All right. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Chairman.
you, Alderman. Alderman Osterman.
Want to congratulate the Alderman involved in this. Just a question to Tim, and that is, how many years out does the payments on the TIF goes? Knowing it's multiple TIFs, just more curious, how many years out will that payment go?
For 2023.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Alderman Osterman. Would you please make a motion to approve using the roll call used to establish quorum?
Make a motion to use a roll call establishing quorum to support these proposals by the Park District and City Council.
Thank you, Alderman. Although moved by Alderman Osterman, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you, Beth and Tiffany and Tim. Beth, if you could make sure to get that information through the chair that I believe Alderman Scott had requested, that would be helpful.
Chairman, could you clarify that that motion was by the quorum roll call?
Yes, this was by a motion to approve having used the roll call used to establish quorum, which also included Alderman Brookins and Irvin.
I'll send that through the chair, the information on the playgrounds for Alderman Scott. Thank you for your attention and your votes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Beth. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, Beth.
Alderman.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Park District section is done, and we're now going to move back to item number 2 on the agenda. Okay. Item number 2, ladies and gentlemen, is a communication recommending the approval of a proposed amendment to Municipal Code Section 2-32-085 by modifying the charitable organizations eligible for contributions from the Voluntary Employee Payroll Deduction Program. This is an amendment from Alderman O'Shea. Alderman O'Shea, are you available to speak? Okay, I think we lost Alderman O'Shea there for a minute. Hold on one second, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can get him back on there. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll just give him a second to get back on. He was hoping to speak on this item, the amendment that he was bringing forward. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this item was essentially extending the voluntary employee payroll deduction program to a program that includes information and support for youth and cancer patients. This program was run by our former colleague, or is run by our former colleague, Ginger Rugai. And Alderman O'Shea was making an amendment to include that organization in the list of voluntary employee payroll deduction program. Unfortunately, he is not available to speak to it, but I did not have too much detailed information on it in front of me, but if there's any questions. Alderman Lopez, is that you, or are you under the dentist chair there?
I'm out of the dentist office. Move due past, Chairman.
Okay. I have a motion to approve using the roll call used to establish quorum from Alderman Lopez. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye. No,
Okay.
I'm not opposed.
I know. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you, Alderman Lopez. Thank you, Alderman Austin. Okay, now we move to item number 5. Alderman Brookins, are you available? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 5 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance regarding the authority to enter into and execute the restructuring of mortgage, note, and federal home HOME investment partnership program from original borrower CNF 89th and Loomis Joint Venture to a new owner, Brainerd Senior LLC for property at 8901 to 8925 South Loomis Avenue to preserve affordable senior housing. This project is located in the 21st Ward, Alderman Brookins Ward. That was reserved the right for him to close on this matter. We will be joined by Joe Lewis from Department of Housing for testimony on this matter. Mr. Lewis, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
believe I need to be granted access to share my screen.
Yeah, Kamal, Kamal, could you do that for him, please? Okay, I think you're ready. See if you can get it up there.
Okay, terrific. Good morning, Chairman Wagasback, Vice Chair Hairston, and members of the City Council. For the record, my name is Joseph Lewis, and I'm a financial planning analyst with the Department of Housing. And coming to the Committee on Finance today, I'm respectfully requesting your support of an ordinance to allow a restructuring of the City of Chicago loan, mortgage, and regulatory instruments in connection with the proposed transfer of the Brainerd Senior Center Apartments, a multifamily rental property located at 8901 to 25 South Loomis Street in the 21st Ward. Brainerd Senior Center consists of a 6-story, 60-unit apartment building and adjacent gardens and parking facilities. Brainerd Senior Center was built in 2000 as an affordable rental apartment building for independent seniors aged 55 and older, and was financed with a loan of home program funds from the City of Chicago. 59 of the 60 units are affordable for households earning no more than 60% of the area median income. 89th and Loomis Limited Partnership, whose principal is Stephen Friedman, was organized in 1999 for the purposes of constructing and operating Brainerd Senior Center, and is the current borrower in connection with the City of Chicago loan. '89th and Loomis Limited Partnership intends to cease its operations and divest itself of its real estate assets. To preserve the current tenant base and operations at Brainerd Senior Center, 89th and Loomis Limited Partnership plans to sell to Brainerd Senior LLC, which is owned by Full Circle Communities Incorporated. Full Circle is a not-for-profit affordable housing developer headquartered in Chicago, whose mission is to expand access to quality affordable housing with a focus on preservation and the provision of significant and targeted supportive services to their residents and the surrounding communities. Full Circle is represented today by its president and chief executive officer, Joshua Wilmoth. The proposed transfer to Full Circle's affiliate is subject to the assignment, assumption, and subordination of the city's loan of $1,837,846 from home program funds. Accordingly, the ordinance requests the following: to allow 89th and Loomis Limited Partnership to sell the Brainerd Senior Center Apartments property at 8901 to 25 South Loomis Street to an interested buyer, to allow Brainerd Senior LLC to purchase the Brainerd Senior Center Apartments property, to allow 89th and Loomis Limited Partnership to assign, and to allow Brainerd Senior LLC to assume the city debt and security instruments for the city loan in the amount of $1,837,846, and to allow subordination of the mortgage for the city loan to a mortgage securing a loan from National Equity Fund or another lender acceptable to the Department of Housing. Finally, the ordinance requests to allow 89th and Loomis Limited Partnership to assign and to allow Brainerd Senior LLC to assume the regulatory instruments that currently encumber the Brainerd Senior Center Apartments property. In connection with the proposed sale and transfer, new financing from an affiliate of the National Equity Fund, a Chicago-based not-for-profit that provides financing for the creation and preservation of affordable housing, will be provided with the assumption of the existing city loan. The National Equity Fund loan is expected to bear interest at a fixed annual rate of 3.7% per year. The proceeds of this loan will be used to cover the payoff of existing debt, as well as the remaining funds required for acquisition of the Brainerd Senior Center Apartments property, as well as project insurance, debt service, and repair reserve capitalization, and professional lender and leasing fees associated with the transaction. In sum, the ordinance supports the preservation of 59 units of existing affordable housing for independent senior Chicagoans by enabling the sale and transfer of Brainerd Senior Center to a local mission-driven affordable housing operator. In addition to acquiring the property, Full Circle currently manages it, and they intend to provide residents with access to a service program provided by Christian Community Health Center, Full Circle service provider partner at the neighboring Brainerd Park Apartments Supportive Living Project. The actions allowed by the ordinance would also provide financial benefits to the city. Loan repayment terms for the city's loan will be modified to require a 50% share of the project's cash flow as payment, and payments received will be used for new multifamily affordable housing loans from the city of Chicago. This concludes my presentation on the Brainerd Senior Center restructuring. I thank you for your consideration of this matter, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Alderman Brookins, would you like to go ahead and speak on this? And I don't see any hands up or any questions, but if there are, I'm sure you could answer them with Mr. Lewis. So,
sure. So, one, we obviously support this move, and Full Circle has done a great job with respect to affordable housing, not only in the ward and in the area, but right across the street from the subject property. We've had complaints about the other owners before, and we've had no complaints about Full Circle and their management of the property across the street. So we think that this will be a win-win for the community, provide some synergy with respect to resources going in that area, and would recommend to my colleagues to do pass. The other issue regarding this is they are trying to close this deal by the end of the month on the 30th. And so there's some things that the city would need to do, and hopefully the mayor's office in cooperation in order to be able to have this thing passed on city council and then be able to have it go into effect immediately.
thank you, Alderman Brookins. Seeing as there are no questions, may I have a motion to approve using the roll call used to establish quorum?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Sposato. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and this motion carries. Thank you, Alderman Brookins.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move to item number 3. This is muni deposits discussion. And then after that, we will go to Department of Law and miscellaneous items. We do not have any legal settlements this month, so there will be no discussion there. We will be doing the communications and miscellaneous items after the muni deposit discussion. So with that, we will move to item number 3.
Good afternoon. First of all, my name is Reshma.
Comptroller, just give me 1 second, okay?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a communication recommending the approval of the designation of the 2021 municipal depositories for the city of Chicago. Everyone should have received some information from last month's meeting regarding requests for information from the committee. Both of these were from the city comptroller, who's going to speak with us today. I also want to point out that for background information, we will also have Jim McDonald from the Department of Law, Craig Slack from the Treasurer's Office, and the City Treasurer, Melissa Conyers-Irvin, who will speak as well. And we'll start it off with the Comptroller, Reshma Soni. And with that, I'll hand it off to you, Comptroller. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman Wagasback, Vice Chairman Hairston, and members of the Finance Committee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come before you again to discuss the list of municipal depositories that have been submitted for your approval. After hearing from members of this committee and discussing the issues regarding lending from Alderman Osterman, Chairman of the Housing and Real Estate Committee, there are 2 main areas that we will be focusing on. First, the city and banks need to discuss how lending practices need to be improved, especially in the south and west areas of Chicago. The feedback that I have received from this committee regarding issues such as difficulty obtaining mortgages for first-time home buyers, developers who are applying for capital for work on the south and west sides, and condo associations trying to obtain loans for a reasonable term to avoid large special assessments for their condo owners are issues that we would like to discuss. Working with Chairman Osterman in this committee, my office will be setting up meetings with the banks that will include members of the City Council, housing advocates, as well as the Treasurer's Office and Department of Law. We also need to look at how the RFP requirements can be improved to bring about increases in community investment from the banks. Although we have added language in the past 2 RFPs to encourage further community involvement from the banks, we need to do more. The Treasurer and I are committed to work on this effort in this coming year. Our plan is to reissue a new RFP in the summer months of this year, which is earlier than we typically usually issue the RFP, with the hope of getting more traction from the banks to increase the community involvement and provide better lending practices. I would like to thank you all for the time this afternoon and your continued partnership. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, we're going to have Alderman Lopez. Did you have a point of information or anything? I wanted to have the city treasurer speak as well.
I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Let me make sure. Okay, Treasurer Conyers Irvin, are you ready?
I am ready.
There you are. Okay.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
the floor is yours. Go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Wagasback, members of the committee, and aldermen at large for the opportunity to speak before you on this afternoon. When I heard about this discussion on last month and the concerns that the aldermen expressed regarding the relationship of the banking institutions with Chicago's communities, especially our underserved communities, I really knew that I had to be a part of this discussion today. So thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. And while the topic is the RFP of municipal depositories, I understand and we know that it is so much deeper than that. We know that our residents are in desperate need of assistance, and in more instances than not, residents feel as if they do not have equal access to banking institutions. Now, I know that we have some aldermen that are new first term, so I just wanted to just spend a few minutes just to about a few seconds actually, to just reiterate the process, just to make certain that everyone is familiar with it. We've heard from the Comptroller, Reshma. Her office initiates the application process for the RFP. After the applications are received and examined, the Comptroller then sends the recommendations to City Council, which is the point that we're at today. After the City Council's approval, the City Treasurer's Office, we work with the approved municipal depositories list. This is an annual process and probably has been in existence before many of us on this line were even born. So I definitely can appreciate the concern expressed by Council. About a year, well, not a year yet, Juneteenth 2020, Illinois State Treasurer Michael Ferrix and I created the Advancing Equity in Banking Commission because we both share the same concerns and we want more equity in lending. We knew that if we really wanted to make change, we had to get the head of these institutions at the table. Because if the head of the organization is committed, it will influence the rest of the team. Right now with our commission, we have several CEOs of banking institutions at the table indicating that they want to help solve this problem. And by the way, this is a systemic problem that has existed for hundreds of years. The disparity in lending is well overdue. And I can really, again, appreciate Council for acknowledging that we as a municipality must do more. And with the recent awareness of systemic racism in America, this is the right time. In addition to the work that State Treasurer Ferrix and I are doing with the Advancing Equity in Banking Commission, I believe that there is an opportunity for myself, the Comptroller, Chairman Wagasback, and members of the Council to come together and truly address equity, even through the Municipal Depository RFP. I have discussed this with the Comptroller as well as Chairman and the Mayor's Office. in proposing that we create a municipal depository task force. Now, we are looking to develop this task force over the next month. As Reshma just indicated, we know that the RFP process will be ready to begin again this fall. And so we know that we want to be prepared and we don't have much time. What will be important in this task force is that it will include not only myself, Reshma, and members of the council, but also an independent facilitator, along with representatives of the banking industry at the table, to really take a deep look at our current process and recommend ways to improve it. Just a few examples for the aldermen as to what my initial thoughts are of the task force. We can look at how the application itself is long and complex, particularly when compared with the efficient and streamlined application for becoming an Illinois state depository. We have heard that the city's current application is cumbersome and is a barrier to smaller, community-based financial institutions who could help to balance out the larger banks on this approved list. While larger banks have time, money, and employees to dedicate to the application process, smaller and mid-sized banks that may have a scrappier, leaner culture really do not have the extra resources. Another point that we want to consider and look at in the task force is the requirement to collateralize at 102%, which may be a hindrance to community banks. Also, looking at the nearly 0% interest rates and the cost of collateralization for these institutions, we want to evaluate our current policy to make certain that it is feasible for neighborhood banks. A major part of the task force will be to reach out to neighborhood banks and try to work through the hindrance of applying to become a municipal depository. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that while the City Treasurer's Office is not usually a part of the RFP process, we typically, as I mentioned, do not become involved until after the list is approved by council. Since I've taken office, we've taken a more direct approach and partnership with the comptroller before the RFP process. And I truly want to take a moment to thank the comptroller for her willingness to make change. Just last year, my office made recommendations to Reshma that she presented through the chair to you in a document because we wanted to make certain that we were a part of the process in the beginning of that application. And the RFP on last year, and I think, again, Reshma submitted this through the chair, but the RFP on last year included two components that my office recommended, and that was to really be able to obtain a commitment from the institutions to have a presence in low to moderate income communities, specifically with brick and mortar locations and not just ATMs. We also wanted the institutions to support economic development within the city, a community reinvestment commitment. These two recommendations were accepted and was in the RFP from last year. But as you know, there is still so much more work to be done. And I look forward to working with the council along with the mayor and comptroller to make this happen. What I envision, to sum this up with the task force, is that either we change behavior or we change the players. At the end of the day, we know that the banking institutions can and should have a more direct influence on spurring economic development in our communities and creating a pathway for generational wealth for all residents. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be around for any questions.
Thank you, Treasurer. Ladies and gentlemen, if we take a vote on, just to clarify, and we vote no or hold it, we just keep the same banks that are on the list now. If we move forward on it, we do have a couple of new banks that are on the list. But I think this is a great opportunity to address many of these racial and socioeconomic policies that I think have floated from year to year over the past. So looking forward to the discussion here. And with that, I will ask Alderman Lopez, if you're ready.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Go ahead.
And good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, Treasurer and Comptroller. Happy Monday to you both. I wanted to ask a couple questions, if I may. and whomever can answer best. It's open-ended. First off, which of those individuals that are listed as municipal depositories skipped out on Chairman Osterman's meeting last month?
So my understanding, and I would probably defer to Chairman Osterman, is that the banks did not show up to that meeting, from what I understand. Now, we reached out to the banks back afterwards, after that meeting, specifically to the Illinois Banking Association. The CFO and I had a meeting with them just to discuss that this is extremely important and they need to be dedicated to show up. Them not showing up is not going to help rectify the situation. So we did get buy-in from the Illinois Banking Association that the banks would come to this to the meeting that I had mentioned in my remarks, that we would like to have meetings to talk through with the groups of City Council, with our office, with the Treasurer's Office, with Department of Law, to be able and the housing advocates to be able to understand specifically what are the issues. And we also understand that every area might have a different type of issue when it comes to lending. So that it can't be a blanket, we're going to do this for Chicago and that's going to work. They need to concentrate on specific areas and see what the needs are. And then what can the banks do to be able to help out those communities, right? And it's not even helping, it's reinvesting back into the community. But we did go back to them and tell them that they need to come to the table and they're willing to do that.
And Comptroller, when they return back to the table, are those public public meetings that they'll be able to participate in?
So we will start, I think, with a series of a group meeting that we would do first privately, but then we would expect to come back to a public forum for them to be able to discuss what are their plans and be able to show how they're going to move forward, and then a reporting mechanism as well. The treasurer and I have both talked about the fact that they need to report back to the group. It just can't be in a private setting, and they're willing to do that.
Alderman Lopez. Alderman Osterman had his hand up, and he might be able to answer that first question if you want it. Your first question was about if any of them showed up at housing, I believe, right?
So yeah, there were 9 banks who declined. The ones who are before us today are the Associated Bank, Bank of America, Citibank, Fifth Third, JP Morgan Chase, PNC Bank, and Wells Fargo, which I believe is a new depository on today's list.
Thank you, Chairman Osterman. My next question then would be with regards to the RFP. It's my understanding that as a matter of citywide policy, not just banking policy, but citywide policy, we are now including language that in all of our RFPs that asks a respondent's commitment to African American and Latino communities. Is that the same language that's going to be included in this RFP, or is there going to be a specific ask included as it relates to lending in specific target neighborhoods or demographics?
So, I'll start, and of course, if the treasurer can add on as well, but we're looking at this holistically, of course, in the banking institution, but also we want to make sure from the social, racial, economic divide that's out there that gets addressed within this RFP as well. So it would probably be a combination, I would think, of both. So we want to be able to address the business side of it, meaning the lending and the activity that the bank actually does, but then also address it on the whole, saying what can any vendor of the city do to ensure that they're continuing to provide equity throughout the city.
I wanted, if I can, Alderman Lopez, because I think that's a good question too. And I want to clarify something. So the RFP process the application process is closed right now. We're at a point of examination and, well, really the examination is done as well. We're at a point of either approval or denial. So the only thing that we can speak on now is going forward, which is why I proposed the task force, because I think that it is going to address the question you have and what so many other aldermen have. and how do we move forward from here? Because right now, the process is already done. Now, what I want to also clarify is that I know that Chairman Osterman really you mentioned his committee hearing, I think a few weeks ago, where he tried to bring the banking institutions to the table. And really the task force came from there, the idea, because we know that we have to do something to make these banking institutions accountable and bring them to the table. So I want to be certain that we all understand we're talking about two groups right now. One is the RFP process, specifically what I'm referring to, where we're going to work on the information we want from the application process so that before it even gets to this point at City Council, we know what questions we're asking, what information is received, and who do we want to choose. Chairman Osterman is also proposing a second concept, which is a working group specifically dealing with the lending and mortgage. And I'm not going to speak for him because he can speak for himself. But from my understanding, with lending, with housing, not just mortgages, but all areas of housing that Chairman Osterman would like to look at. That's the second point, a working group. Now, obviously the comptroller and I will be participating in both. While we'll be leading the task force, certainly will be a part of also the working group that Chairman Osterman has. And at the end of the day, it really is going to take a tag team of all of this for us to really get to where we want to be.
So then if I may, thank you, Madam Treasurer, I appreciate that answer. So then my question then would be, if we were to, and I understand Chairman Waguespack's description, if we say no, roll on with the group we have. If we say yes, we bring in the new ones. But if we were to say no, would that trigger a new RFP that would actually be able to bring in the new discussion points into a new RFP to select other points?
I think the comptroller can answer that.
Yes, yes. So the RFP process is an annual process. Actually, the municipal code dictates that we do it on an annual basis. We're even thinking here to do it a little bit sooner than usual. Usually what we do is that we'll start the process in August, September, and working with a Department of Law, working with the Treasurer's Office, especially in the last few years, working together to come up with the RFP and then start sending out the RFP, advertising out, calling up banks, and trying to get some additional activity for people to apply. But that usually starts in that August, September timeframe. By the time we receive the RFP responses back and we review, we're at mid to late November, and then we're presenting to City Council at that point in time. Here, we're looking to even see if we can start the process a little bit sooner, but saying yes or no won't trigger the RFP because the RFP will happen regardless. We're required to do it every year, but our hope is to do it a little bit sooner with these changes that the Treasurer has been talking about and that I have mentioned, and the meetings that Chairman Osterman has mentioned as well.
Okay. Thank you.
But okay. Did that answer it for you, Alderman?
Okay. And I would close with stating that we include the equity. I don't know.
Alderman, I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Sorry. I would say when we close with the equity piece, that we make sure that it's not just a box to be checked. Will you support African American and Latino communities? It has to be something tangible, and it has to be something that we could measure and hold them to, and even hold it against them as a depository if they fail to meet the metrics that we expect for them. And I would ask you to consider that in your language for the next year's RFP. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Alderman. Alderman Moore?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. First of all, I thought Alderman Osterman, I thought one bank showed up or none showed up.
Guaranteed Rate had offered to show up, but given that everyone else had declined, we felt for the hearing to do without them. But Guaranteed Rate's not part of the depositories today.
They did offer to show
They
up.
offered to come and provide testimony, but I think given that all the other lenders, including
Right.
many that are here today, didn't have the time to sit with us and go through this important issue, we just went ahead with the hearing with the advocates and the witnesses that we had at our hearing.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we noted that to, give them that credit for at least having the willingness to come. before us. And these are the type of people that's probably trying to do the right thing, and definitely people we want to make sure that when we send this RFP out in the fall, that they're considered for depositories if they're doing those right things. But first of all, I want to thank Comptroller Reshma for not only being present and being helpful. I think we even started talking about this a month or a month and a half ago, and making sure that we work towards that equity and inclusion, but also answering any and all questions that I had. I also want to thank our treasurer, Melissa Conyers-Irvin, for interjecting, putting her input in, which was very critical to helping me make my vote here. And so I respect her opinion and her leadership on this matter, but I really thank you for clearing up between the task force and the working group. And I did hear something in that conversation that we proposed doing a task force. Are we definitely doing the task force, and are we definitely doing the working group? That's what I need to know. Is that a definite for both of those?
From the information that I have today, yes, all parties have indicated that this is something that we want to do. Alderman Moore. And
want to do or going to do are two different things. That's why I have to be clear.
I don't see, I can't see any reason that we won't do it. This is what we're going to do. Yes.
Okay.
Now, you know, it's going to be the support of all. Now, the parties include city council too. So it's
absolutely,
it's all of us joining together. And I have already also mentioned to Chairman Osterman that I wanted my office to be a part of the working group so that we can tag team.
Okay. And so with the leadership at both the Ham and I think the commitment from both the city and in each sector, our treasurer and our controller, I think doing this and moving forward and then getting us in a position, as the treasurer eloquently stated, but also as my colleague Raymond Lopez stated, not just checking the box, but making those true commitments. I think we can begin to make some ground here. So definitely want to move forward on this. And I don't know if anybody else have their hand up, probably do, but definitely want to make a motion that we move forward and pass this item today.
Alderman Moore, can you hold that motion for just a minute?
Yes.
Alderman Osterman, did you want to respond? And then I have Alderman Dowell.
Could I say a few things and then I'll turn it over to the chairman of the budget committee, who I look forward to hearing from. So first, let me just start and say that I very much appreciate our treasurer, Melissa Conyers-Irvin, and all of the effort that she's doing to get at this issue. I think she understands it from her community, but also has her role as treasurer and understands the long-term systemic impacts on Chicago and how we have to turn the corner on this. And I want to partner with her, and I think the members of the council do the same. And I also want to thank Reshma. I think, you know, we've had a lot of conversations about this issue. I have some fundamental concerns that are going to prevent me from voting in support of this today. And that is that the issues that we're talking about are not new issues to Chicago. They are, to me, a direct line from redlining that occurred, disinvestment that occurred in Chicago, to where we are today in the conditions of communities around the city, but also fundamentally for residents to get loans on homes. And I also fundamentally think that the banks, who we are going to give our money to as our partner in government, are not focused on this issue and continue to show vast disparities when it comes to equitable lending in Chicago. And it's not a 2016 issue or 2017 issue, it's a today issue. You know, this is a challenging one because there's one bank, it's a small bank in the new group that may not be included, but I think for us to continue to put our money with lenders who are not investing in communities of color on the south and west side. I don't know how that's going to change their behavior. And I think just so, you know, we invited them to the meeting, the housing committee meeting. This is not for me about them showing up at a meeting. This is about them fundamentally showing up every day in communities around the city of Chicago and doing the work that's needed to partner with residents and neighborhoods to turn, you know, stabilize and help support people who want to stay in the city of Chicago. Their lack of participation ongoing, I think I think all of us should be concerned about that, regardless of where you live in the city of Chicago. Wells Fargo, Associated Bank, Bank of America, Citibank, Fifth Third, JP Morgan Chase, PNC Bank, they have shown, I think, you know, that they don't want to participate and work with us. I'll also point one thing out. Each of these lenders before us today had to sign an affidavit. And part of that affidavit, which should have been sent to all of you, requires them to work with and answer questions of the city treasurer, the controller, members of the city council. It requires them to work with nonprofit neighborhood development organizations focused on revitalizing communities around the city of Chicago, and specifically talks about where they lend. But one of the other key parts, and again, part of why I'm going to be against this today is given where we are with COVID pandemic and with foreclosures that could be upon us soon, part of this is they have to discuss and work with us on issues of foreclosure. And for them not to sit down and have conversations with us about what they're doing to help support people in lending, but also the potential of further foreclosures that continue to increase, specifically in communities on the south and west side. I think those conversations have to happen, you know, before we move forward. I think the other thing which I'll point to is the treasurer's comments about changing the players. I think we need to try to find ways to invest in the mid-sized, small neighborhood banks that care about the residents in those communities, can work with residents, work with community organizations, housing leaders to really help support people at a difficult time. And I think if people can't come to the table, then, you know, it's hard to say that they're going to help solve the problem and get the systemic change that we need. And, you know, I've talked to the controller, and I think, you know, empowering her in her role, I think that she has the ability to bring the lenders together. She has the ability to bring members of the council together with them to talk about ways to move this issue forward. But continuing just to go along and say, we're going to keep doing this because we've done it for 40 or 50 years, I think gives us the conditions that we have today. So I look forward to working with my colleagues on this, but I can't support this today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Osterman. Let me go to Alderman Dowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very difficult vote for me as well. I was telling someone that I'm barely a yes on this, and I'm more of a yes on this because there is a smaller African-American or African-owned bank on this list, GN Bank, which is located in my ward and who I support immensely, a bank I support immensely. So that's the reason I'm voting yes on this. But I think that the points that Chairman Osterman raised about how the banks have disrespected this body and the city of Chicago, low and moderate income neighborhoods is real, and that I'm not happy about that. But I do feel that the leadership of the city treasurer, our comptroller, in creating this task force does show some forward movement in a way that allows us to change the paradigm. And I'm hopeful that this committee or task force will begin to address some of the systemic issues we've been having with these financial institutions over time, certainly since I've been a member of this council. I like the idea of tag team. I think that's what the city treasurer term that she used, excellent term. And I think we should be focused on this. So I'm going to be voting on this today as a yes, in support of GN Bank, but we cannot continue to let the banks treat the residents of this city the way that they have treated them in the past. So I'm supportive of the work that City Treasurer Conyers Irvin and the Comptroller are putting forward today, and we'll be voting yes on this, reluctantly voting yes on this ordinance today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Comptroller, I have a question for you. Which were the banks that would it be added on if we were to vote yes today?
So there's 3 banks. Currently there is MUFG Bank, which is a smaller bank, Zions Bank, and Wells Fargo, which are the new banks on the table. I would also, just hearing the comments from Alderman Osterman and Alderman Dowell, I just want to also reiterate that speaking with the banks, they're looking to come to the table and start these conversations with us in the matter of 2 to 3 weeks. This is something that, I also want to just appreciate how much time and effort the treasurer has put in to ensure that we can do this type of tag teaming. And I agree with Alderman Dahl that tag teaming is a good word here. But I think we're covering this holistically because we're looking at the RFP process and seeing how we can improve that and make it stronger to be able to achieve our goals. But then we're also looking at, after that's done, how do we continue to push the banks and work with the banks, I should say, for lending, equity and equality, and making sure that they're reporting back. So I think both of these groups will help us do that in fairly short order. We don't want to take too much time, right? We want to start the conversations as soon as we can. So I just appreciate the support, and just wanted to add that we're looking to do this very quickly.
Thanks, Comptroller. Another question.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Treasurer. I can follow up on a question after.
I also wanted to just say that I appreciate the comments that Chairman Osterman as well as Chairman Dow made. And I want to be clear on what you all are voting on today. Because if any media is listening, I think that we have to be very clear on the verbiage. This vote does not say to the banks that we are okay with how you are and we want that to continue. The only thing that this vote is changing is adding 3 more banks to the table that really, if we really want to be frank, is not the true problem of where we are today. We're really talking about banking institutions that are already a part of the municipal depository list, that whether this vote is yes or no does not remove those culprits from the list. So what we want to do is move forward to a point that we're at an application process where we can certainly do this at the forefront and not where we are today. Because I don't want the aldermen to feel like they're feeling, because this is not a vote to say that it is okay with what you're doing. Those same culprits are on the list no matter what the vote is today. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Comptroller Sony, so one of the things that we see in this is that certain banks have a much higher percentage of the balance, or the holding balance. And how is that determined?
So I would defer that question to Craig Slack if he's on from the Treasurer's Office, since the day-to-day cash and management, as the Treasurer had mentioned, is handled by CTO.
So correct, and Craig is here with me. That is the Chief Investment Officer here who works very closely with Reshma and her team. After this vote of City Council, the approved list now comes to the Treasurer's Office, and I, from that point, decide, basically, as your question is, who are we going to park our money with? And at the end of the day, we are always trying to look at best execution, really by ordinance. You know, we have to look at best execution in the treasurer's office. But again, looking at the entire list. And so typically it changes by day, as Reshma indicated. And we are always looking at where we can get the best price. And right now, as you know, the interest rates are near zero. So we're not getting a big rate of return on our money, but certainly in previous history, we have done pretty well with these institutions. So we shop. I had a long answer for it, but at the end of the day, we shop around for the best price.
So theoretically, if GN, MUFG, and Zions came into this list in this meeting and it were passed, you could look at their percentage that they're offering or what the best practices are there and give them a higher percentage of those balanced holdings.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So right now, if you look, I think BMO and JP Morgan have the highest percentage. So you could technically just shift that in your office. So if we added the 3 new banks or financial institutions, technically they could be given a higher percentage.
That is correct, depending on what the rate of return that is being provided. And
Right.
that's the negotiated conversation that we have with each institution.
But nothing, is anything preventing them from having the sort of the ability to hold a larger amount of money? Because if you look at the holdings of, yeah,
Collateralization.
there you go.
We require the banking institutions to collateralize up to 102%. That can be a hindrance for small and mid-sized banks. And that is exactly what we have to really address with this task force. Because right now at the current interest rates, Chairman, it's costing these institutions as much to collateralize as to really what they would be receiving on the money that they have. So it's almost, and it's something Reshma and I were talking about it this weekend, and it sounds crazy, but it's like even below zero, negative interest rates. This is a negative return for banks. It can be. And so it's a lot of things that we really have to work through that the task force is going to have to do a lot of research into.
Okay. So, but for the 3 that were added on this year, presumably they kind of looked at it and said, we might be able to come out ahead on this. That's why we're applying.
That doesn't really mean that. They just want to apply to kind of start the conversation, because we can't even have a conversation with them unless they're on the list. And so they've applied, and that's a great question. Just because they applied does not mean that they want our money. Well, they want it, but it may not benefit them to have it. Let me put it that way.
Right. Okay. All right. Comptroller, did you have anything else to add? Did anybody else have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to move forward on a vote with this. We can do a roll call vote though, unless there were other strenuous objections. I could do roll call or just the vote by quorum with the exception of Alderman Osterman.
Chairman, I move for a roll call vote.
Yeah,
Okay,
roll
thank
call.
you all. All right, Alderman Riley moves for a roll call vote. Give me 1 second.
The team, so.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the roll call vote. This is for the municipal depository item. All right, start off with Alderman Hopkins.
I vote aye.
Alderman Dowell.
Aye.
Alderman King. Alderman Hairston.
Aye.
Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderman Beal.
No.
Alderman Sadowski Garza.
Aye.
Alderman Thompson.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to rule 14. My uncle's works at Wells Fargo.
I will make note of that. Thank you, sir.
Alderman Burnett, aye.
Okay, hold on a second, Alderman Burnett. I've got you as aye, but back to Alderman Cardenas.
Like Warren Green's thoughts on the policy pathways there, but
Alderman Quinn.
I think that it can't just be at this like macro level, like we have to.
Aye.
Who needs to mute?
Alderman Quinn was an aye. Alderman Burke. Alderman Burke. Okay. Alderman Lopez. Raymond Lopez.
No.
Okay. Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Curtis.
Aye.
Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Tabarez.
Aye.
Alderman Scott.
Aye.
Alderman Burnett's an aye. Alderman Irvin.
Aye.
Okay. Alderman Taliaferro. Alderman Raboris.
Aye.
Chairman is an aye. Alderman Austin.
Aye.
Alderman Villegas. Alderman Mitz.
Aye.
Alderman Spizzato. Alderman Napolitano.
Aye.
Alderman Riley.
Aye.
Thank you. Alderman Smith.
Aye.
Alderman Tunney. Alderman Osterman.
No.
Thank you. Alderman Silverstein.
Aye.
Any other ayes or nays out there? And the vote is 20 to 3. This item passes. 20 ayes and 3 nays. And one Rule 14 by Alderman Thompson, which will be recorded as we report this out. All right, thank you very much to the City Treasurer, Melissa Conyers-Irvin, and also to the Comptroller, Reshma Soni, for your participation today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank you
good
all.
afternoon.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for jumping around today, but I appreciate your participation. We're now going to move on to the last items of business today. As I mentioned, we did not have any legal settlements that we went through, but we are moving on to the Department of Law. We move on to communications from the Department of Law, item 23. This is the monthly report of judgment and verdicts and settlements from the Department of Law for the month of February, and these will be placed on file with the clerk. Items 24 and 25 are authorizations for the payment of various small claims against the city and the denial of payment of various small claims against the city. If there's no objection, these items will be placed in the omnibus. And before I move on,
Are you at the office? You're back at the office?
I'm in my office. Sorry. Alderman Lopez.
I'm in my office as well, Chairman. I just wanted to follow up with you on the issue that I know both myself and Alderman Irvin vocalized last month about the scheduling of the hearings to discuss the lawsuits and what we can do to prevent the departments from having repeat violations costing our taxpayers money. Just wanted to see where we're at with that.
Yeah, I had a discussion with the law department. Now that Renee Rodney is back, we wanted to have her involved in those conversations as well. I'm looking at, I think in April, of having a separate meeting for that, or rolling into a meeting at the beginning of one of our Committee on Finance meetings. But I think it's important what you brought up, and we also, as I might have mentioned last time, the city is in the process of hiring a new chief risk officer. So I think once that person, whoever it is, gets on board, we'll have to bring them back into the loop and restart the discussion with them based on the conversations we've been having that you brought up with a lot of aldermen about these different department issues.
Okay.
But I haven't forgotten. It's something that's important. I think we all need to be aware of what's, sorry, whoever the new CRO is, we all need to be keyed into that.
Respectfully, do we have a time frame when the chief risk officer is going to be hired? I just don't want to get so far away.
No, but I'll find out. I'll see if I can get a specific date and pass it through the chair, if that's good.
Perfect. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Alderman Irvin?
Thank you, Chairman Wagensback. I know we had that, but I thought that the matter was in rules because it was a much broader conversation. It's been a while, so I can't recall. So I know it does affect our finance committee, but the conversation, I believe, and I don't know if that has been done in conference with Chairman Harris for Committee on Committees and Rules as well.
It's my understanding it's just a Department of Law issue that we were trying to have subject matter discussions on within the Committee on Finance, but I'll reach out to her and discuss that.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let me go back to just make sure we have this correct here. Items 24 and 25 are authorizations for the payment of various small claims against the city and the denial of payment of various small claims against the city. If there is no objection, these items will be placed on the omnibus. Items 26 are 2 proposed orders for tag day permits on behalf of the organizations, including Children International Incorporated. This is for citywide, and that would be April 1st through May 31st, 2021. And Park Lawn on the far southwest side from April 2nd through the 10th in 2021. If there's no objection, I ask that these items be placed in the omnibus. No objections. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the Committee on Finance meeting on March 22nd, 2021. May I have a motion to adjourn using the roll call?
So moved.
That we adjourn.
Okay.
Everybody say adjourn.
Everybody joins Alderman Harris in making a motion to adjourn using the roll call used to establish quorum. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody that wants to stick around that's opposed?